right, well, welcome everyone to the Koochiching County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. Would you help me open with the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everyone. First up, under county business is to approve the proposed agenda with additions and/or deletions. We do have one deletion, and that is under financial. Item C is to approve public health and human services claims. We will ratify that at the next meeting. The claims aren't quite ready yet. So I'll keep that in mind with your motion. And other than that, there are no other additions or deletions. So I would accept a motion to approve proposed agenda with the deletion of item 3C.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Any questions, concerns on the agenda? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. Thank you. Next up is to approve the minutes from the May 7th, 2024 regular meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach. Any discussion on the minutes? Good. All right. Hearing no discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. Next up under financial business, Chair would accept a motion to approve courthouse claims and highway claims, items A and B.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Any discussion on the claims? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. Thank you. Next up under human resource, we have a couple of notices of hire. Adam?
Yes. First one is Brian Johnson is new hire in our human resources generalist position. His first day will be effective May 28th.
May 28th.
Next Tuesday.
Welcome to Ryan. And then you also have a notice of hire of a maintenance supervisor.
Yep, and so the second one is we have filled the maintenance supervisor position. His first day was yesterday, May 20th. And that is Jacob June. He'll be in the highway department, serving as the maintenance supervisor.
Well, thank you, Jacob. And welcome. Anything else on board that? All right. Thank you. Next up is to consider adopting a resolution for Koochiching County for the issuance, sale, and delivery of a general obligation jail bond series 2024A. This is going to coincide with our committee of the whole discussion on the resolution to move forward with the bond sale. First, we have to have a resolution to have the bond sale as it is laid out. Accepted. I don't know if George is online. I don't see him as yet. And we can circle back if anyone has any questions for George at Northland Securities. And the bond was issued yesterday, Adam, on Monday, for the amount discussed in this bond sale. And I will go, once we get into that here, we have the next item after will be to accept that bond sale. So this is a resolution to be able to do that. And I'm sure everybody read it word for word, right? So. And this is for the issuance of the second bond to move forward with construction of our jail here adjacent to this building. We issued the first bond in 2022, I believe, and we are now kind of following up with that next bond to continue and get into this project. Before we can accept any bids, we have to actually incur the money. We have to have the money in hand before we can accept any bids here, so that's part of one step of the process. So, any questions on the resolution? Anything I might be missing here?
Unless you want me to go through the same thing we went through before, I certainly can.
Well, we'll do that when we get into the next, when we accept the bids and stuff. So, if you want to know, you can do it, just for the record. For the
Sure.
record, what actual amounts or what our bond was, if you want to explain that.
So as Commissioner Schoberlin said, we went out for a second jail bond to cover the cost of the jail construction. And the bids came in yesterday. The low bidder was RBC Capital Markets. And their bid was an average true interest of 4.076%. And the jail bond amount will be $15,270,000. And they offered a premium on that of $447,033.90. And so what's up before you guys today is to adopt the resolution to approve the sale of this bond. Like Commissioner Schulman said, we need to approve the bond sale to incur the funds before we can accept bids.
And I think we talked about the bond rate. The bond rate had moved a little bit. We had kind of anticipated around the 3.85 area. It's just a little shade over 4. So I think that's the last time we met, probably, 3 weeks or a month ago. I think we were at that potential of a 3.8-ish area. So we are up a little bit on that interest, but still, it's still, I think, a reasonable amount with the AAA rating that we got. That helped us out a little bit too, I think, and I think they must have picked up the markets a little bit, even though the feds didn't adjust the rates. The bond market must have changed a little bit, so but it held steady at least. It didn't go up or down.
That 7-year refinance?
Yes, I believe it. Yeah, that's a good question. Is there still a 7-year refinance opportunity?
Yes, I believe in the bond resolution, it talks about you have to wait till 2033 to be able to refinance or pay it off.
So at that time, after the 7-year mark, with either one of these two bonds, the first one included, we will, after 7 years, have an opportunity to open that bond if we need and resell that bond at a lower interest rate if it's possible. Obviously, we don't know that or predict the future, but there's potential savings there in the future, significant savings too, depending. So I think we got a pretty good rate. I don't know that it's going to be much better than that, but if it goes down 1% and we can get it 1% lower, it would be very significant to refinance and probably worth it. So consider that for the future folks that are around or whoever was here, so they understand that. But it is a 7-year lock deal right now, and after that, then it opens up. So and that was part of the first sale as well. So we'll have an opportunity to look into it if we think there may be a bit of a savings there. So I know Joan will, if Joan's here, but Joan's not here. So but she'll be watching that, I'm sure. So
Guarantee she will.
any questions on the resolution? Pretty quiet.
I'll make a motion.
All right, Commissioner Roach, thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Howell. We have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. Thank you. Next up is to approve the jail construction bid packages. And I will ask Justin again if he wouldn't mind going over those for the public here.
All right.
Any other recommendation letter drafted also, Justin? And I think we discussed that at our committee of the whole, but if you just want to kind of go over,
Yeah.
Summarize that a little bit and just for the public here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
So last Tuesday, we opened bids for the rebid portion of earthwork and mechanical. Earthwork was broken up into two work scopes. Work scope 1, which would be just earthwork and exterior improvements, and work scope 1.5 was just utilities. And then on the mechanical side, the HVAC or the air side was broken up from the water side, the hydronic heating and cooling, and the plumbing, domestic plumbing. So I'll go through the bid tabulations from Tuesday's result. For work scope 1 earthwork, we had 3 bidders. Wagner Construction of $1,333,000. We had Urban Companies $1,419,000. Ullin Brothers, a combined bid for work scope 1 and work scope 1.5 of $1,857,000. Work scope 1.5 utilities, we had 2 numbers. Wagner Construction at $345,000. Ullin Brothers, again a combined bid with work scope 1 and 1.5, $1,857,000. Moving to work scope 9, HVAC, Shannon's was a combined bid for work scope 9 and 9.5 of $4,090,000. And Thielen Heating and Roofing was work scope 9 HVAC, $1,448,000. Then the final package, work scope 9.5, plumbing and HVAC piping. JK Mechanical came in at $3,035,500, and Shannon's came in at $4,090,000. So that was the latest bid tabulation from the rebid. So then the bid recommendation, the ICS bid recommendation letter dated May 14th recommends the following award: work scope 1 to Wagner Construction, for work scope 1.5 to Wagner Construction Utilities. Jason, do you want me to list off the amounts?
Maybe just who they were.
Who they were? Okay. Work scope 2 precast was Wells Concrete Products. Work scope 2.5 structural place concrete, Hawk Construction. Work scope 3 masonry, Midwestern Masonry. Work scope 4 general construction, Bradbury Stom Construction. Work scope 5 roofing is Nelson Roofing. Work scope 6 food service is Cullinex. Work scope 7 elevator is Otis Elevator Company. Work scope 8 fire suppression is Absolute Fire Protection. Work scope 9 and 9.5, because it was a combined bid, was Shannon's base bid of $4,090,000, and plus they had the alternate for the additional HVAC piping. And then work scope 10 electrical was Hanson Electric out of Bemidji. And the grand total, these are all the low contractors from bid day, all the low contractors. And the grand total, and with accepting alternate 1 for the construction cost of these combined, all these bidders, $19,381,546.00. And the last thing to talk about is the actual bid, the bid matrix that everybody has in the board book. And it again identifies the low contractors, their base bid amount, along with the alternate number 1, the HVAC piping at the existing facility. So base bid, alternate number 1, and that reflects the bid recommendation letter.
And there's a couple of work scopes that are not included in there, just some concrete and some paving.
Yes.
That we're going to kind of go for a different bid later on.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. But that is included in the.
That is included as a budget number in this total, in the bid matrix.
All right. Thank you. Any questions? Concerns? So So what's before us here today is to approve awarding contracts for construction of the county jail and law enforcement center per the ICS recommendation letter dated May 14, 2024, in the grand total amount of $19,381,546. Chair would accept the motion for that recommendation.
I'll make the motion. I'll second it then.
Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. Thank you, Commissioner Roach. Any further discussion, questions? Right, hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Justin.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you. And thanks for all your work on this too, hey, keeping up with this and going all
Absolutely.
back for, bidding it again and everything. I know that was, I do appreciate the bidders and all the contractors that participated and bid and rebid. So certainly do appreciate them and being patient with our process here, so.
Certainly.
But looking forward to getting going here and seeing what happens, so. Looking for customers, anybody? Taking early reservations. All right. Hearing none of that, we'll move on to, next up is to accept AARP grant award, and whoever wants to speak to that, Tim, please.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. And you have a grant awardation to come forward right here for AARP for part of the fellowship. And what's that going to serve, Tim?
Yeah, if you recall, back in February, we presented to you on an application to AARP. We were notified here about a week or so ago that they accepted our application for this generation-to-generation student digital navigators. It's volunteers and teenagers working with mostly 50 years and older people, but not limited to that. And we'll do a series of courses, and it is countywide. The amount of the grant is $11,775, and the request is for you all to accept that award, pending review by the county attorney of the MOU. The issue is that the deadline doesn't quite match up with our calendars here on the board side. So maybe if the chair approves of that, that would be what we're requesting.
So then some of that work will continue with that cross-generational kind
Yeah.
of coordination and collaboration for folks.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's led up kind of by you now. I know you've had a couple
Correct.
things here this last year.
Yeah.
Where you served a couple of different deals and got several of the students from the school there to kind of go and help
Yeah.
some of the folks get onto the computer, and they had
Right.
a couple of probably 2-generation difference between the kids and the folks they were helping, but kind of good learning experience for both of them.
Yeah, for both sides. But it often our younger people and our older people kind of get forgotten on the spectrum in the community, and if we bring them together, we find that they both have a lot to offer. And so, with that kind of continuation of working with the students and trying to get them connected with the older folks.
And so what we're doing is we're accepting this grant here and just be administered through the county for this purpose and invoiced and
Yeah.
recorded. It looks like there's
Correct.
some reporting.
And KTI would be responsible for the deliverables reporting. Although my service ends here in August, we hope there'll be someone continuing on after. But I don't intend to go anywhere, and KTI is positioned to ensure that the grant is completed.
Utilized, okay, all right. Sounds good, you're doing good work. I know you hear about it, and then you also, maybe just for a quick mention, you have a recycling deal coming up here in the not too far away future?
Yes, Saturday, June 8th, from 9 to 1 at Cary Park. Anyone and everyone with electronics, and that means anything, or virtually anything that can be plugged in, can be brought in for free. And KTI and PCs for People and other partners are working on that. So whether it's business or a private individual, time to empty out the basement and the closets. So.
Yep, absolutely. Okay,
Can
everybody's
you,
got.
can you fill me in on how it's countywide, this deliverable, the generation?
Right.
How do you envision that?
Yeah.
Little Fork, North Fork, Big Falls?
Exactly. How to spread it around, right? What we have posed to them are 3 2-session classes, as well as some kind of, I guess, pop-up events for people that can't attend a couple of session courses. And we'd love to work with you and others on where those sites ought to be, get people there, promote it, make sure we have participants, right? So those sites have not been selected yet.
So upon sortation, then we can discuss through KTI then where we, how we would, and kind of the delivery of this information. So
Exactly.
if we get something set up, I think you're thinking Dale, maybe North Home area or
Sure they could. Birchdale,
Birchdale.
Big
Yeah.
Falls, Little Fork.
Yeah.
They all have old people.
Yeah. there's
Not many kids.
there's
They all got
a
old
lot of
people.
us.
Right, yeah, so, we'll work on that too. I mean, we'll definitely try to get through a couple, 3, 4, or all of them if we can, so. But yeah, well, thank you for all your work and stuff. And it's been a team effort, so there's lots of people that are around and surrounding this and have been for several years, and they're doing good, so.
Yeah.
It's good to see it's progressing and moving forward. So.
Right. Thank you for your
Thanks,
support.
Tim. Thank you. Thank you, Tim. So up for consideration is to accept the AARP grant award and authorize board chair to sign the AARP MOU once it has been received and reviewed by the county attorney. This is in the amount of $11,775.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach. Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. Next up.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
I see George is on now. I don't know if you guys, I know we went through it already, but if there's any questions for him or.
Hi, George.
Good morning, sorry, a little bit of technical difficulty on my end, I apologize about that.
No worries, sir. We went through here and we've accepted the resolution and the bids here, but if you want to go over, just summarize quickly, we can squeak in here right now if you like, just for a little more information. if you-
Sure, thank you for that, I'll keep it short here, and certainly if you have questions, please let me know. So, yesterday we took financing bids on the second round of financing for your jail project. So the way counties work is we take financing bids the day before, the low bidder holds the bid until the next day. So in your case, we received 5 financing bids with RBC Capital Markets out of New York as the low bidder. They base the low bid on the true interest cost, and that was 4.076%. So it's nice to see multiple bids, certainly seeing 5. Prior to that, I should say that similar to the first bonds issued in 2022, board, we worked with Standard & Poor's who rated the original bonds in 2022. They were rated AA minus. Working with Adam and Joan, they did a very nice job on prepping for the rating call and addressing questions and follow-up information as requested. And so they affirmed the county's AA minus rating. And then you had taken some steps at previous meetings to enter into the county credit enhancement program, which jails are an eligible purpose, allows you then to see that bond rating lifted from AA minus up to AAA for this bond issue. And so when the investment banks are looking at your bonds, they're bidding on your AA minus underlying rating plus your AAA rated credit enhanced and participation in that program through the state of Minnesota. So, excuse me. So the bonds themselves, again, resized to $15,270,000. That's the amount that is in the resolution that you would be awarding. Actually, you already did award, so thank you for that. These are bonds that the 22 bonds had a 20-year term. These bonds have a 24-year term, so they go out a few more years. We needed to structure the debt that way to finance the entirety of the project that the bonds are issuing. So again, 24 principal payments. Similar to the 22 bonds, they have a call date. The call date is when you can prepay or refinance on the bonds. The call date for this bond is February 1st of 2032 and any date thereafter. And so that's pretty early on in terms of your bond schedule, which at that point when you reach the call date, you still have 85% of your principal remaining. So that, if market conditions change, the 22 and 24 bonds could certainly be refinanced. And we'll watch that for the county and let you know if there is the opportunity to refinance. Closing date, that's the date that the funds are available, is June 20th. So that's the date that the funds would be wired to your account. And the county's done a real good job of investing funds, certainly on the first round of bonds. And so I expect that you put these funds to work or in a similar account to that that you have for the 22 bonds. So Chair and members of the board, that's a quick overview. We've seen a lot of volume. It's that time where a lot of construction going on now. It's the spring construction season. Coupled with that, you see a lot of volume in the bond market to get those projects funded. So it's the interest rates are a little bit higher than what we had been looking at, and I think part of that is due to the volume of sales that we're seeing in the marketplace. But nonetheless, you'd be locking into that 4.07% for that 24-year term, and which again you took that action already. So, Chair and members of the board or staff, any questions that I can address for you?
I think, do I recall correctly that the 4.0, whatever that was, that the funds that we will receive from that, we cannot gain more interest on it than that? Because I see the rate is 5.05 now.
We will get more, but we'll owe it back to the IRS at some point if it doesn't flatten out. I think George can explain that better, but the arbitrage on that.
Yeah, just if you wouldn't mind, George, going over the arbitrage, and then could you just touch on the reoffering premium as well, so we understand that fully?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question on the arbitrage. Certainly we're in an environment now where what you borrow at is you're able to actually exceed that with your investment rates, and you have been in that environment, including back to the 22 bonds. So you're allowed to keep a certain amount during the construction period of positive arbitrage, but in general, if the IRS, when you're issuing tax-exempt bonds, they don't want you to keep more than the average borrowing rate on your bonds. So for example, on this one, the 4.07%, in the calculations, bond yield for arbitrage, It's actually a little bit less than that. It's closer to 3.9%. That's if you're earning at a rate higher than that, that's great, because you're maximizing your earnings on your unspent construction proceeds. But there'll be a point, as Adam noted, that the agency that's doing the investments for the county on the jail proceeds is calculating as you go along the amount of excess interest earnings. And so along with the positive earnings that you have, there's an amount over and above that would need to be paid back to the treasury at some point. So, but yes, that's being calculated as you go along. Good question there. The reoffering premium, and I'm not sure, board, if you saw the page in your handout, you're still netting the same amount of money that you were intending to net for this project, but you're issuing fewer bonds. And that's because there is what's called a reoffering premium in your bonds. And that's where the coupon rate is what you will be basing, or what we base your principal and interest payments on. That rate is from 5% in the about halfway through your term, it's 5%, and then it goes down to the 4%. That's higher than the true interest cost on the bonds. So the true interest cost is based upon the yield column. That's the average, or that's the actual market for AA minus, credit enhanced up to AAA rated general obligation debt. So the difference between those two columns is what's called the reoffering premium. And so that's the $447,000 that is revenue to the county in this scenario. What we do with those funds is apply that as a source of funds. So we take the reoffering premium and downsize the principal. And so in effect, that washes out the higher interest rates that you're paying on your debt service payments. So that's why you see the amount of principal on your bonds as lower than what perhaps the original resolution or draft resolution that may have been in your packets. So I just finished up another bond sale. I'm sitting here in southern Minnesota and with another county, and same thing with their bond sale. They had a reoffering premium. We see that across the board with most bond sales in the current market. It's investors they pay up to get, or pay that premium to get that higher rate of return on their investment. So to the county, it washes out because we take that premium, comes in as a source of revenue, downsize how much you borrow. So, Chair, I know that's kind of it's not always the easiest topic to present. I see Kent is in the room. He's an expert on economics, so I know he could probably present it too. But if there's other questions, I can certainly spend more time on that.
Any questions? So we could technically take this buy down or buy up and put it towards our interest payment.
That's needed, it's actually needed for the price of construction.
Oh, that is the price of construction, okay.
Based on,
Part of the bond, okay. Any questions? No?
And Chair, I'll just make one more note. Maybe Adam even mentioned this earlier, but when we were talking about positive interest earnings on the 22 bonds, we've had a good discussion with Freiberger Law Firm, which is your bond attorney for the bond issues, and getting their input, if you will, on when we should use those dollars. And for example, the 22 earnings, or the earnings on the 22 bonds, should stay with the 22 project, meaning that the 22 bonds, if we have a bond payment coming up, you could apply interest earnings to an upcoming payment. We do have, of course, some county contributions on this 24 bond. I can keep in touch with Adam, certainly, board, if you have questions on kind of strategies to utilize those dollars going forward. So, but thank you for all your time this morning, and I can certainly address other questions you may have, or Chair.
So yeah, any excess funds left over in the bond or interest from the bonds after the project is over, move to the debt service. It can be paid towards the debt service on those bonds. So while we can use interest now to pay debt service, I think my recommendation is to see where construction goes, making sure we have enough to cover construction, and then after that we can decide, how to apply any overages to the debt service.
And there is the ability to do that to kind of help that project along too. Okay. So yeah, so that being said, I guess you understand that we could use these funds at the end of the project, hold them for the project, or hold them till we feel we need them. So obviously we didn't get everything we wanted out of these bids, just to keep the costs where we can afford this. So there may be some things that if things go well, we may be able to apply to getting an upgraded service or system into this if we think it's necessary. So, or we can hold it, and it sounds like we can use it also for payment or anything beyond that too. So that might be a consideration too. Because interest rates actually quite well on this year, so we're going to be collecting our interest payment for sure on this money. So for a couple of years anyway. Any questions for George? No questions, George. Thank you very much for stepping in and explaining that.
Yes, thank you, and sorry about the being late. And yeah, appreciate you acting on the resolution already, and good luck on your project. Hope it goes well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Right. Next up is a land port of entry presentation, and I see Seth LaRock. Is that correct online?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you here. Looks like you got some controls there too.
Yeah, I'm trying to share my screen. Are you able to see the slide deck?
Yep.
Great. And okay, and I can hear you well too, so I think we're ready to get started here. Appreciate all of your time this morning. I'm Seth LaRock. I'm the GSA project manager with the federal government on this project to build out a new land port of entry project here in International Falls. I've been asked to give a quick update. It's about a 15-minute presentation today on the status of the project. Got a lot of information I'm going to cover very quickly, so if you don't mind, I'll go through the slide deck if you have any questions or discussion afterwards.
Thank you. Yep.
Let me just make sure. Yep, there we go. You should see the second slide. Okay, here we go. So the agenda, I want to cover the project team, our stakeholders. I'm going to go over some of the project information on the background. I'm going to talk about our funding sources, which are the bill and IRA programs. Talk a little bit about the existing conditions and the constraints of the site that we're working with. I'll go through the project schedule and phasing plan. And then the fun part will be showing the pretty pictures from the concept design and the scope of the project itself as we're moving through the project. And then talk a bit about the sustainability approach that is a driver for this project. And then the last, we'll be talking through some options that we're looking at currently for the intersection for the coming off of Highway 11 into the new facility. So let's go. So starting with the project team, I'm not going to read through all these names, but we are the U.S. General Services Administration. If you're not familiar with our agency, we handle projects like this for other federal agencies across the country. We're probably the largest agency most people have never heard of, but we basically manage construction projects very similar to this. I'm actually based out of Detroit. We do projects all over the Midwest region. There's a list of names here for other GSA's team members, but really, if you have any questions on the project, I will be your main point of contact. And there's a link with my email address here if you're interested in contacting me anytime with questions about the project. But we're doing the project mostly for the Customs and Border Protection, or CBP. They're our main tenant agency in this project. We do have space that we're building out as well for the Department of Agriculture, as well as the Food and Drug Administration, or USDA and FDA. They're smaller spaces, but there are going to be some additional space that they don't have at the existing facility that will be included in the new one. We have already hired our design firm, Snow Kralik Architects. They're from Minneapolis, and our CMA, or basically our commissioning, or CMA and commissioning agent, which is Jacobs Technology. They're our advisors on the project. Just talk a little bit about the project background and overview. The existing land port of entries building itself sits at the foot of the International Bridge on a very small constrained site. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. The building itself and the site are very small. It's actually amazing the CDP is able to do the job that they can with such limited space to work with. The building was built in 1994, which was before CDP even existed as an agency, and so it was built before a lot of their requirements were even known. And so there's a need for expanding the site in order for them to properly do their jobs. So we're looking at a project to expand the land port of entry program by building new facilities on a new site that we're looking to acquire, about 20 acres that's looking to be purchased along the Rainy River. The majority of that will be purchased from the paper mill. There's about a 4-acre site that we're looking to buy from Recreational Land Development, LLC. We are currently at an early design stage. We just wrapped up our concept stage, and we're looking to have the actual project completed no later than the end of 2029. And we're looking to, our next step is really the big milestone for the project will be awarding our CMC contract. The solicitation has been issued at the beginning of May, and bids will be due by the end of June, looking to get that contract going, making the award by this fall, and then starting an early release construction package in the spring of 2025. There's a lot of ifs that obviously go into that, but that is the current plan. We are funded primarily through 2 major federal programs, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law as well as the Inflation Reduction Act. If you pay attention to the news, I'm sure you've heard those terms. They're 2 congressional programs that have been used for funding all kinds of projects. So this is one of the projects that are funded by those 2 sources of funding. Speaking of those 2 projects, the bill and the IRA, there's a link here if you want to know more about those programs. There are specific objectives that those programs are rolled out to accomplish. I'm not going to read through all these, but it's basically trying to improve the economy, as well as achieving some sustainability and innovation goals, support clean energy and a lot of other things. So we fit in pretty well to all of those objectives that the current administration has for projects across the country. In GSA, the bill budget included $3.4 billion, and that was for 26 land port of entry projects across the country, both the northern and southern borders. This International Falls project is actually the largest on the northern border. There are some larger projects on the southern border, but it is a big investment in the Minnesota area here. And then for the IRA program, it's not specifically for land port of entry projects, but GSA received a little over $3 billion as well for low embodied carbon materials, for emerging and sustainable technology, for high performance green buildings. There's about 150 projects that GSA is running across the country, and we're one of those projects as well. Moving on, so this next slide shows what I'm sure you're all familiar with, which is the existing port. Again, it's a very small constrained site. There's one main building with a secondary inspection building. It's really amazing how many things happen within about 40 feet of the bridge, with the roads crossing there, the rails crossing there, pedestrian crossing, everything happening right at the foot of the International Bridge there. And so we're looking to basically expand what's there and make it more operational for long term for the community and for safety and security purposes, so that CDP can achieve their mission. This next slide shows the planned expansion. So the blue is the existing port. It's about a 1.6 acre site. And then the red dash line shows the area we're looking to expand into. Again, it's about a 20 acre expansion along the Rainy River, and then going down to Highway 11. If you guys are familiar where the existing U.S. Border Patrol building is, we're basically going right up against that, where that fence is. There will be the end of the property we're looking to acquire for this project. All right, so moving on, there are quite a few site constraints on this project. Most notably, just the dimensions of the site. It is a very long, narrow site. And that's why most of these land port of entry projects aren't 20 acres, but we're finding that it's tough to pack in all the program into the space because of the narrow neck of the site takes up a big portion of it. So it's really only enough room for lanes of traffic and pedestrian routes along the river on the west side of the site. And then even on the south side of the site, where the majority of the space is for building, there's the narrowest point that's only about 230 feet wide, which is not much space when we have to pack all the program into what we're trying to accomplish with this project. We're also dealing with floodplain issues. We will be within the 100-year and the 500-year floodplain, and there are some existing power lines that affect how we can lay out the buildings as well. Those high voltage overhead towers that we're looking to either relocate or build around as we're laying out the project. So it's a very constrained site that we're looking to build into. I also want to point out that the first creek does cut through our site. It was originally, or was years ago, it was a culverted section of the creek. It was opened up in daylit a few years ago. We're looking to reroute that as part of our project and make it more of a naturalized stream bed. Moving on to the schedule. So this slide shows a very high, like a big picture view of the schedule. As I mentioned on one of the first slides, we do have to, the driver for this project is making sure that we expense all of our funds no later than September 30th of 2029. Essentially, all those funding, all the funding that we receive from Congress will turn into a pumpkin at midnight on September 30th of 2029. So that's really what's driving all of our decisions on this project and trying to move it forward. So we're about 3/4 of the way through the site acquisition process, looking to have the site acquired by the end of this year. The design process itself is about 1/3 of the way through, and we're looking again to start construction with early bid package work next spring and finishing by the end of 2028 to allow some time for move-in and then closing out the project by very early 2029. I also wanted to mention in this slide, there's a lot of coordination that will need to happen with the paper mill and all the other neighboring community operations as we do this. Obviously, the biggest player in this area next to the site is going to be the paper mill itself, and making sure that we don't impact their continued operations and working with them to just kind of relocate existing functionality of the sites without having any delays to their operations. But there are other coordination items that need to be accounted for as we schedule the project. Notably, there's the Rainy Lake Medical Center project, which is right down the road from where we're trying to build this new port. We're looking to start right around the same time we are. So coordinating with that will be important. And also just recognizing that there's a lot of work within the roadway as well as with the shoreline and wetlands work that's going to require coordination with MnDOT, Minnesota Power, the city, county officials, the DNR, the Army Corps of Engineers, all kinds of folks that will be involved as we lay out the scope and submit permit applications for those elements of the project. A really basic phasing plan for the project, just to give you an idea of how we're going to perform the project. It's pretty straightforward, really. The toughest part is going to be when we cut over from the new to the old for the traffic, but the majority of the schedule of the project will be building out the new facility on a 20-acre site we talked about along the river. So we'll have the new port fully built out and operational. We'll move the CBP into the new facility. And then there'll be a phase where we have to temporarily reroute traffic so that it can be used for a new port location while we demo out the existing building, move some rail lines, and then close up the project essentially. So the majority of the schedule will be while we're building up the new scope and then trying to minimize impacts when we get into the later phases. All right, before I show the next couple of slides, I just wanted to note that these are very early concept renderings and images. There's some things that are going to change. I always want to throw this out there before I show any kind of renderings. A lot of times people latch onto these as a final finished solution as it comes to design, but we are still only about 1/3 of the way through the design process. So what I'm about to show is very early. So just keep that in mind as I show you these next couple of slides. Oops. So this first one is a site plan view. So you can see an elevated site, our existing ports. I don't know if you can see my pointer here, but the existing ports up by the existing bridge. And again, we're looking to expand in this 20-acre site along the river. There will be 4 new buildings, a primary building, which will have the primary inspection canopy. This is the main building, where the CBP will occupy 24/7 operations. There's also a secondary garage that's for commercial vehicles. So if you are coming through the primary inspection and are referred to secondary, they'll make you go underneath the secondary canopy for inspection. And if further inspection is needed, you would go into a garage where they would look at your vehicle under an enclosed condition. And then for commercial vehicles, they would go past the primary building and then go to a secondary inspection building for commercial vehicles, for trucks and other traffic. We have what's called the non-invasive inspection technology in one part of that building, and then there's loading docks where commercial trucks can be inspected further. So that's on the main part of the building. There's also a smaller building on the very eastern side of the site, which will be used for our Trusted Traveler Center, as well as the kennel and potentially a firing range, which will be used for CBP use, as well as other agencies in the area will be able to use the firing range if we're able to build that out as part of this project. I do want to note that the main entrance and exit point from the site will be off of Highway 11 on the very southeastern edge of the port. So right now everybody kind of comes and goes to the existing bridge. There's not a way to reconfigure this on this type of site any other way than to have the main entrance and exit point basically near the customs, the border patrol facility along Highway 11. So this slide just kind of shows the circulation. So again, it's a very tight site. So the narrowest part of the site, we barely have enough room for the 2 lanes of traffic and the pedestrian traffic without having to impact the shoreline. And that's why the bulk of the work is going to be on the wider part of the site, on the south side of the river. These next slides show some renderings. So on the left is an image of the proposed image of what it would look like inside the building. So we are looking at using mass timber construction for this project. So there'll be a lot of wood, a lot of stone, trying to respect the natural surroundings of the area and make it very much a warm, inviting space, a place that people are proud to work in. The images on the right show the top one is a view. If you're coming from Canada, entering into the United States, it'd be what you would see as you're approaching the primary inspection lanes. And then the bottom image is looking from Highway 11 towards the facility. You can see what it would look like with that wood slatting above. This is an image, kind of a close-up view of what it would look like in the wintertime. So it's a stone base with a wood top. There's a lot of glass, very modern building, but trying to be respectful of local materials and trying to create a space that people are proud to have in their community. We do have a lot of sustainability and resiliency goals on this project. So we're looking to achieve a LEED Gold with potential of achieving LEED Platinum on this project. We are expecting to receive a Site Silver rating. We are looking to have a net zero building, net zero energy, as well as low embodied carbon materials throughout. There's some more specific goals here. If you have any questions, then I can come back to it. But basically, there's a lot of reasons why we're trying to make this whole facility as sustainable and resilient as we can to meet the objectives of the bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act funding that was appropriated for this project. All right, and then really the last content slide here is about the entrance. So we are aware that by shifting the entrance from where it is currently near the bridge down to these off of Highway 11, we're rerouting traffic further east from downtown. So there's been some expressed concerns from the community about traffic being directed east of town rather than going through town. So we're looking at ways to try to relieve that. So we're looking at 2 options. One is a stopped intersection, basically a 3-way stop, and and one is a roundabout. So obviously the three-way stop controlled intersection is the one on the top, and then the roundabout is on the bottom. We prefer the roundabout at this point. We think it does a good job of directing people to the right when they're exiting the site. And it would be easier to do some signage and things like that to encourage people to head towards downtown when they're coming from Canada. You can obviously still turn left out of the site, but it's just not as easy or natural to do that. And so we're hoping that that might be a way to get people to go there. It also creates an actual design element to signify where the entrance to the LPOE is off of Highway 11, which might also get lost if we didn't have this intersection here. So there's a list of pros and cons here. There's obviously a lot of safety factors that are being considered as we're laying this out. And these are very early conceptual option drawings that we're showing here. But we're trying to make a decision on what would be best for the long-term use in the community. So there'll be continued conversations with MnDOT, with the Rainy Lake Medical Center, with PCA, the city and county as we further on these discussions about what's best for this intersection long term. So I can come back to that if you have specific questions on that. I suspect you may. But that was the bulk of the project update. If you have any questions, again, my information is here. Contact me anytime. Email is always the best way to reach me. But I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. Appreciate your time, and I'll just open up for any questions or discussion points.
Thank you, Seth. Questions from the board? Concerns?
I have one question. What
Sure.
have you got figured out for, you got showed that 106-foot wide area there for the 2 lanes where they go down?
Yeah.
Thinking worst case scenario, what happens if somebody has a heart attack in the middle of that? You guys got it figured out how to get an ambulance to that area?
Yeah, so there will be shoulders, so there will be a way to get around. You can still get emergency vehicles there. I actually forgot to mention the outbound lane, the blue line here, is actually going to be wide enough to actually have 2 lanes of traffic. So even when, so for those days when we have very high traffic loads, like Memorial Day weekend, for example, you can actually have 2 lanes of traffic stacked up on there to minimize impacts to the surrounding streets. So there is width to be able to get around traffic, so you're not stuck in that spot if something does happen.
Okay.
Did that answer the question?
Yep.
How about if they build a new bridge, or a new bridge is built?
Yeah, good question. It's obviously a big concern, and one of the main things we heard about when we first started this project is that there's been rumors about a potential new bridge. And just to be clear, we are not at all involved at GSA about the bridge itself. It is a privately owned bridge, and I know there's been discussions about the bridge. So our understanding is if there is nothing concrete about the new bridge plans as of yet. If they were to move forward with the project, it would be years down the road. That process is a long, drawn-out process. It can take up to 10 years sometimes to go through that process. And so our conversations with those stakeholders that may be involved in wanting to do a bridge in the future has been that if they do build a new bridge, it would be basically parallel with the existing bridge. And so it doesn't really impact our operations as long as it happens anywhere from where the existing bridge is to where we come down closer to our site. So as long as the bridge kind of lands anywhere in the neck area, we would be able to accommodate that without having to make any significant changes to the port itself. And that project would be responsible for any kind of adjustments to the roadway and things like that.
Sounds good.
Anyone else? Well, thank you, Seth.
Questions?
Yeah, I guess, some of the concerns here locally within the community are that cooperation and coordination with all these entities, and we're certainly hoping of developing a local committee here that would be able to kind of vet these concerns and then,
Sure.
kind of get those questions to you or the appropriate people, to get some answers and things, I think is what we're looking for. So our concern here, my concern is obviously of our hospital and our local paper mill. Those are the 2 drivers in our community, obviously both very important, and they both need, consideration with some of their requests and things like this here, as will we. We will also be a part of that conversation with requests and coordination and doing what we can do to help, make this transition smooth for yourselves and for the entities involved too. I think Grand Lake Medical Center is considering a hospital a little further to the east of this site. So obviously some of these traffic concerns are a concern of mine because I've lived here forever basically. That's a 50-mile-an-hour highway, and I have concerns of accidents and some of the memory of that road being what it is, and it's going to change drastically and considerably. So those are some of the concerns, and kind of rerouting traffic and things like that appropriately is going to be a concern of mine, although not my decision necessarily. But we'll work with the Department of Transportation as well and try to get the best solution here too. So I mean, just kind of want your consideration. I guess I'm asking for your consideration to be able to hear us via a group of people that we're going to form here that have kind of already tentatively formed a group here, a small group that will expand and will include our local stakeholders here via through the county and the city and et cetera, with PCA and Grand Lake Medical Center and others that we can maybe voice some of those concerns to yourself and to this project. And obviously it will happen quite quickly. I understand there's a tight timeline, so we're going to move fairly quick on this here, and just hoping that we can have some of your consideration, some of your time to hear these concerns.
For sure. Yeah, I totally mirror and I appreciate what you just said there. I will mention, so we set up the monthly calls on Tuesday mornings, 10 o'clock Central Time, where all the stakeholders you just mentioned are all invited to that meeting to voice concerns and to hear an update on the project. I was hoping that would be the best venue for kind of talking through some of those issues you just mentioned. And I think they will be moving forward. If we need to reschedule that for a different time that works better, just let me know. Or if there needs to be others added to that invite, it's really open to anybody that's interested in hearing updates of the projects, about the project, and any concerns they want to voice. That's really the best venue that we've tried to set up for that purpose.
Well, I appreciate that. And that being said, Tuesdays are not good for us necessarily, at least the second and fourth Tuesdays. That's our board meeting time, and a couple of us would like to attend that, myself included, to kind of hear what's going on. So we do have some attendance locally on that through our engineer has been kind of keeping track of it, keeping us updated here as these meetings progress. So I'll open it up to the public here, if you don't mind, Seth. I'll open up to the public if there's any questions in the audience. Yes, please.
Yeah, Seth, this is Brian Rousey from the hospital. I think we need to get do I need to?
Here, we'll just give you this here. If you want to phone,
I can hear you, Brian.
All right, so that monthly meeting that we have, that's really more of a report out, a status update of the project in its entirety. What I feel we really need is just a focus group that is going to work together on the challenges that we all face out in that area, whether it's PCA's challenges with their workflows, our challenges with the backup of traffic several times a year that's going to impede access to the hospital. There's no time for that on that monthly call. We need a group that is going to work and focus just on these issues, so we can get plans in place that will resolve them. I mean, it's really a question of life or death. One ambulance carrying one person having a heart attack or stroke that cannot get access to the hospital can die, and then that's all on us. So we need to work something out that's going to ensure we all can be successful with our projects.
Yep, I hear you, Brian, and I understand. And I'll mention on that specific topic you just mentioned, I have asked, it really needs to be, I think that discussion really needs to be led by MnDOT because there's impacts beyond our project and just kind of the master plans of how Minnesota Highway 11 will be kind of the master planning strategy for that with all these different changes along there. So I have reached out to our contacts there from Minnesota Department of Transportation and asked for that kind of follow-up discussion about that. He's not gotten back to me yet, but I'll follow up and we'll try to set up those detailed discussions on that specific item.
Yeah, I agree. We have to have all the key stakeholders from the region at the table. We need to have you at the table, and we need to have MnDOT at the table because we have to come up with a concrete plan that they will support.
Agreed. Yep, totally agree.
And Seth, it's Lori. I also agree with Brian. From the beginning, the Land Port of Entry project, we knew it was going to change our traffic pattern significantly because a lot right now is done behind the scenes on the River Road right to the trailer parking. That's going to be, the traffic across SR11 is gonna significantly increase just from the paper trailers going over to the new parking lot, which is proposed to be east of the scales. So our service road is gonna have to go on the south. Burner Road is gonna be a big pinch point for our bark trucks, our trailer trucks. Then we've got all the logging trucks coming in, and then into the parking, the new parking area, which is directly across from the Land Port of Entry entrance, and all of a sudden, you know, we've got this wonderful investment of a new hospital and new development, and so all of a sudden, the traffic measures or the traffic control is a huge concern. And, you know, we didn't have that much of a concern before because the entrance to the Land Port of Entry wasn't where it is being proposed today. So, along with Land Port of Entry traffic, mill traffic, lake traffic, hospital traffic, you know, there's a lot to consider in there, and a lot of reconfiguring to be done. So we agree, we need to have this nailed out. We understand that the GSA is not gonna have their design plan done until the end of next year, but we can't wait till the end of next year to have our plan done. And we're gonna obviously have to take measures to vacate the property and to be able to operate efficiently. And so we need some pretty concrete plans in place before, you know, we can start to accommodate the GSA's request of vacation of the property. So the sooner the better that we can get going with this and finalize, get a buy-in and finalize on a plan. We'll all be better off as a community.
Agreed.
Anyone else in the audience?
I had one question. Seth, this is Adam. I was just curious, what is happening with the current facility in the property there?
It will be demoed out at the end of the project, so not to the very end. So we're gonna build out the new facility first, get it completely operational, move CBP into it, and then once we're done that, then the existing facility will be demoed out.
And GSA will maintain ownership of that 1.5 acres,
Yep.
or whatever it is?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And just to add to that, not one of the pluses, but a plus of the end of the GSA's project is our rail will be moved completely out of the lanes of
Correct.
the Land Port of Entry traffic. Right now, you know, you cross 2 or 3 times each way, so that's a solution that we feel is very positive and will help both the mill and the Land Port of Entry.
Yep, that's exactly right, yep.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Lori and Brian, for both being here. And we'll get going here. And I know Lori's kind of spearheaded her concerns and then mentioned, obviously, Rain Lake Medical Center's concerns. So what we're looking to do is to develop that focus group and initiate that focus group here in the next couple of weeks so we can coordinate with who we think. I think you're right. I think MNDOT needs to be at the table, our county engineer, the city representative, you know, and we need to get moving on it as quickly as we can. So we're going to look forward to doing that and then get some action items on there and just kind of talk about what needs to happen first, and then we'll just make a plan. So I think we got some good people here to, you know, Adam obviously will hopefully help us out. He's got some good ideas on how to step it out to where we can get those concerns heard and get them, you know, to the appropriate people as soon as we can too. So
Great, thank you.
But appreciate you both being here and appreciate you. Thank you, Seth, for the update for us and for the community.
Sure, yeah, anytime. If you guys want to hear updates again later, just let me know.
Okay, thank you, Seth.
Thank you.
You're up, Joe.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
The next up is to consider Northland Council request to support residential crisis stabilization unit. You're teaming up today, I see, right?
Yes, thank you for seeing us. This is appropriate because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I just want to throw that out there. We are asking you to consider support to the, for my end, it's the Crisis Stabilization Unit. I'm Mary Ann Lundquist. I'm the director of our local Crisis Stabilization Unit. It is covers our whole community, which is nice. And we came into fruition probably about September, but we had our first client coming in October. We've had probably about 175 client days, about 20 clients, almost half of whom came right from the emergency room, which saved money for the community of having the ambulance drive them away. I think the ambulance cost is about $4,700
Yeah,
talk
I
about that.
had a conversation
Yeah.
with the fire hall. It's $4,725 to transport somebody in a BLS ambulance, just basic life support, for a mental health hold down to Duluth. I will note that the lion's share of our holds in this community actually go to Fargo, so it's even higher.
Yeah. Our Valley Pine Center unit, we employ about 12. We employ 12 people. 6 are full-time, good living wage. And I'm sorry if I seem a little nervous. I just do. What we're doing is we are saving up a lot of time for other people, the ER staff, law enforcement. We are a 3 to 5 bed. We are a 3-bedroom, 5-bed facility in the state of Minnesota. Even though every county is covered by a crisis response team, not every county is covered by a crisis stabilization unit. The average stay is about 3 to 5 days. We've had them a little bit longer just because of where we are up here, connecting people to resources. The state has a total of 10 crisis stabilization units as standalone, so we have a little feather in our cap up here. Joe did say that there are like 15 facilities that also have like crisis beds, but we're talking about the average is about 5. I know of another place in Grand Rapids, they have 2. Good news is, for the first time ever, now that we are on a Minnesota Provider Health Access for Mental Health website, we are starting to get referrals from those places to this county. For example, like 3 right now, 3 for sure. We've had people who are maybe visiting up here from out of state come in. We connect them to resources here in our town, in our county, like Servants of Shelter, local churches. We buy all the food, from Super One. I could go on, but you kind of get the drift. The other thing is we are connecting them to the mental health provider of choice. Of course, we have a lot of services right there at Northland Counseling. The other bonus regarding the employees is we are kind of growing our own. We have right now, I have employed 3 part-time interns that are going to school to become therapists. And that's kind of important too for our town. I'm just really proud of what we have had done. And for the sake of time, I don't have to go through and say all the different places that we utilize, but it's everything from Koochiching to the county services, Friends Against Abuse, library, pharmacy, medical center, the whole thing. So we can also get people who come to us on the worst days of their life. We get them stabilized, we connect them resources, and then we can get them connected to maybe a longer term, like 90-day treatment program. And this is all without them having to go through the emergency room. So I've just kept it short. Do you have any questions for me about the crisis stabilization unit we have in town?
So you're actually qualified to take these folks upon referral from, say, a concerned family member?
Yes.
So I can comment on that a little bit.
We get them from the crisis response team. They can only come to the crisis response or a county in Minnesota crisis response team. So I'm going to let Joe.
So yeah,
That's okay,
so
thank
basically, we meet with I run the crisis response team, so we meet with the individuals where they are. So wherever in the community, whether it's at the emergency room, friend's house, where we've met. I've been in a fish house. We've been everywhere. So basically, we if they're identified as needing this service, then yeah, we transport, take them right to the unit, and get them set up. The one thing I would like to point out is that this cost is exactly zero. So crisis response team does not charge, nor is the cost to stay in the unit. We can bill MA, so there is a little bit of money coming in. We can bill MA. Her service is actually designed to be completely sustained by MA. Derek can probably comment on this. We've got a very large, the last check was like 2018, it was like 47.5% of the population of the county's on MA.
Yeah, I don't have that number up.
Right, but it's about half. So it's a significant number. So
And when they originally went for opening up the crisis stabilization unit, that was before I was hired. I know Joe and their team, at the time, the reimbursement rate was put it this way, we're getting 1/3 of what we thought we were going to get for a reimbursement rate.
yeah, and that came from the state.
Yeah.
So
it was a
essentially,
surprise.
what we are asking for is $20,000 in funding to help keep the place open, keep it free. To put that in perspective, and I'll talk about this a little bit when I present about the crisis team. Itasca County, First Call for Help out of Grand Rapids, has a combined crisis team and a stabilization unit. Itasca County contributes $350,000 to that. So I just wanted to point out that we're not shooting the moon by any stretch of the imagination. And I guess since we're both up here, well, I'll let you,
Okay.
We'll stay with you.
Thank you. That's okay. I just wanted to know if anybody had any questions about our new crisis stabilization unit. You know, it takes about a year for the dust to settle on these things, and I can say we're definitely in that. We're 7 months in. I'm very proud of all the work we did. It's been a learning curve, and connecting to resources and knowing all the resources, all our social provider network in this town, the county, all over, all the way from Northam to wherever. You know, we take them all. So if you have any questions regarding what we do there, people stay at our unit.
How many did you say you had this last year, or someone must?
About a total of nights that people stay was 175. So we've only had about 20 right now. About 20. I think 20, yeah. We're getting a couple more today. Interestingly enough, we're getting a couple people from a different county. So the word is out. We have the beds, they don't, and they're providing the transport.
So what happens if you have somebody from this county that needs a bed then?
Needs what?
We've got more beds. We've got space.
Yeah.
We're not gonna fill up from.
No.
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 But
No.
help another county.
It's like we would only say yes if it was like we're being kind neighbors, good neighbors. They really, that county, particular county, Itasca, has been sharing some resources with us, which have been very beneficial. They're going through a little crunch right now, so we're able to help. And we hope conversely that could happen if it ever needed to be happen. But our whole goal is to keep, you know, our local people here. And it could be, and it's been all but 3, they've been people from Koochiching County.
So it's quite a savings. Otherwise, we'd have shipped them to Duluth.
Yes.
Or Fargo.
Yes.
Right, and
Somewhere.
so the estimate on a stay in an inpatient unit is $2,600 a day. So our reimbursement rate is just a little less than $800 a day.
Yeah.
So the state looks at it as a gain if we don't have to put them in an ambulance because that's how they're transported, so we're not tying up an ambulance. And then B, we're keeping them here. So if you are, say you're loaded into an ambulance and you end up in Fargo, when you're released from that facility, you're on foot. So there's no ride back. There's no transport back. You're on foot. So you need to either get a volunteer driver through the county if it's available, which I think I can say can be difficult at times, or hope that there's a family member or somebody that can go out there, or a friend, somebody that can go get them. So by keeping them here, we're able to place them in a cab or on the bus and put them back in their home. So that's a big deal for people in this community.
And we've had people who have already repeated, come back 2 or 3 times already. People who, you know, are having a really tough time with their mental illness. Now I'll let Joe.
I'll have a few questions.
Thank you.
That's okay. The $20,000 request, is that this year, next year? Is it a one-time request, or are you looking for it every year?
Ideally, it would be every year,
be
but
every
it could be a one-time, it could be this year, could be next year. That's up to you guys to decide how you want to do it.
Because of the distance, we'd like to train people too.
And we understand that it's May, so your 2024 budget is already spent, and we understand that. So we actually doubled this up because I have to be here to do this for my grant, but I thought as long as I'm going to be here, we could do both. So it could absolutely be 25. That wouldn't be a problem at all.
And is it just to supplement operations?
Yes.
Yes.
Trainings, et cetera.
Again, so Northland Counseling, we built that brand new facility. It was $4.5 million. The crown jewel of the facility, and most of you have toured it, is Valley Pine Center. It's all brand new. It's gorgeous. When we started this process back in 2018, our reimbursement was exponentially higher than where it wound up. What's happening is the state is lowering reimbursements everywhere. So all of these crisis beds that she had mentioned, their rates are going down. The problem is that they're established. They don't have construction costs. They're not brand new. They've been there for years. Wellstone Center's been open for 10 years. New Leaf's been open, which is in Virginia, so St. Louis County. Birch Tree Center in Duluth is a 15-bed facility. They're at least 10 years. Yellow Leaf just opened up, which is HDC, which is literally across the street. They opened up 15 more beds, but they had a big grant from the region to do that. We didn't take any city money, county money, state money to do this. We did this on our dime. We did have a grant to build the building through DHS, but we didn't ask for anything from anybody to do this with the thought that our reimbursement was going to be higher. Full disclosure, if we knew that the reimbursement wasn't going to be what it is, there's a very good chance that that place would not have opened. Just because, again, DHS had said, here's where you're at, and oh, here, this is where you're at now. So,
Yeah, and we still have mental health issues in this community, right? I mean,
Yes.
it's not just isolated to one part of the state or.
No.
yeah, and
It's kinda
when we say 3 from out of county, we have an individual in there right now that's out of county. They came from Beltrami County. We have 2 that are arriving today from Itasca County. That's been it. So the rest of everybody else, and those 2 aren't here yet.
And to that
So-
point, what I did not make clear, and I'm sorry for that, was that those counties pay us.
Okay, that was gonna be.
That's really important to know that this first time this is happening, they're paying for their
They
steps.
make you whole. They reimburse you to keep you whole?
They pay the state rate.
Yeah.
So,
$800?
yeah, and then I should also note, so then the crisis team has a small portion of our grant set aside to help cover unreimbursed care. So let's say we have somebody that, and we've had multiple individuals that have like Medicare, or Medicare. Medicare doesn't pay. So they pay nothing. So rather, we don't charge that individual. We just use that grant funding to pay for it. We've had individuals on Boise insurance, hospital insurance, that have stayed in our unit that the grant then reimburses their stay. So they do not receive a bill for the service. The issue with that is there's only so much grant money that I've got set aside to do that. So when my grant dries up, we're pro bono because we're not going to charge. We can't. So at that point, we're not getting paid to provide the services. We're just going to continue to provide them.
How do the other stabilization units stay afloat without county funding? Is there anything unique?
We're kind of ahead of the curve in a way that we did get our low reimbursement rate, only because, we know that other places are being cut. Their funding is being cut.
Or they refuse individuals.
Correct.
Or charge.
Correct.
And that's not what we're going to do.
We don't want to do
We're not going
that.
to refuse and we're not going to charge. So they charge. There's a certain amount of money that the region, so the region is Cook, Lake, St. Louis, and Carleton counties. It's Region 3. You sit on the board. So as you know, there's a certain amount of money there that's put aside for uncompensated care that is shared between those units. We haven't had to tap into that yet. So there is a certain amount of money that the region puts aside for that.
Thank you for
I
what you do.
apologize for that.
I know mental health is a big deal. I'm just curious if there's any legislation out there that we can help support that would help with that.
I will find that out.
I mean,
It's an election year, so there's nothing on the
Yeah.
table right now.
But still.
So, yeah.
In future years, I mean, I just think that this is a growing need, and there's quite a bit of attention around it.
And I do have an idea on that, but it wouldn't be discussed here.
Did you say there was how many units in the state?
10 crisis units.
10.
And they're not, I don't know how many beds, but they're about the same as ours, I suppose. Some of them are bigger.
Some of them are bigger.
Some of them are smaller, like 2 beds.
There are
so-
3 5-bed units, which we fall into that
In the whole
5-bed
state?
unit.
In the whole state.
In the whole state, there's 10 units.
How did we end up with
We're just ahead of the
Northland
curve.
Counseling and looking forward. and
Yeah, we're ahead of the curve.
Recognizing the
Keep
need.
our people.
And I should
know,
note that
here.
we have a 5-bed facility, but we also have our bed at our crisis residential facility over on Park Avenue that can serve one person at a time as well. So we actually have 6 beds.
True.
So if there's a person that doesn't quite fit the mold to go into, they think it's too institutional, that's a home. So we do have access to that bed as well. So that bed did not close. We've had that bed for years.
Did
So
you
we didn't
open
close it.
because of a need or because of an opportunity?
It was a need. So when it rains, it pours. We found that a lot of times, so that bed can go, that previous bed could go a couple of weeks without a person, and the second you put somebody in there, then you get a call on this one, and you get a call on this one, and you get a call on this one. So Northland Counseling Center is nonprofit, so there's no money to be made in this. It is
Currently,
it's nonprofit.
before we opened, those individuals that fit the criteria to be where we are were in the ER. They had to go to the ER, take up space in the emergency room, and be held until they either go home or they get connected to somewhere else in an ambulance and put them either to like North Dakota or down to Duluth. So that's where it came from, was a need, real need.
How many beds is the Leaf Center in Duluth?
15.
That's all
You're talking
remodeled?
Yellow Leaf.
Yellow
Yellow
Leaf,
Leaf,
yeah.
yeah.
That
That's
was
15.
just all remodeled and everything out
Yes.
there.
Because that was Birch Tree.
It's brand new,
And
yeah.
then Birch Tree moved across the street, and then Yellow Leaf, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're running at about 80 to 85% occupancy.
Yep.
So it's, and the other piece is this is a totally new service.
Yes.
So there's still people out there that, well, we didn't know this existed, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that they know. I do want to note that 10 clients that we've admitted into the facility have come directly out of the ER. As in, my team went there, assessed them, found that they were eligible, transported them, and placed them. So seamless, which the ER is really happy about, because that's 10 individuals that would have been loaded in an ambulance and sent out of county.
18 plus, right?
Yes, 18 plus.
Great. Any other questions? We'll just kind of go through your side of things here first before we pick on Joe a little bit. So what normally would happen is we would, in a situation like this here, being in mid-budget or towards the end of budget, we would consider this as a 2025 budget item. And that would be considered, I think, around, we put submittals out in, late June-ish? And then we do internals and we do externals.
Yeah, so for appropriations,
Right.
those that we've given to in the past and others that are requested, I'll send out, Margaret will send out a request form with supporting documentation. And people submit that, and then it's brought to the board for consideration for appropriation of county funds. So I can certainly put you on that list if that's the wishes of the board.
Well, right, I just think, to kind of accommodate that right now might not be the best time. It would be easier for us to be able to budget and make a plan for it. And I think we all support it. I know I do. I think it's a great idea, and it's a great thing to continue to have. And it is a little bit of looking ahead a little bit too, to cover those needs. And I think, it also serves multifaceted purposes. You don't have the transportation, you don't have the taxing on the county necessarily, with having to, take care of that either, and worry about it and think about it and know that it's happening. So, and obviously, the board can think for themselves, but I think that would be our best step, would be to potentially get a request and submit it. And I think those requests are, like I say, around the August timeline when we're doing our 25 budget. So, and then we can certainly consider that, and so certainly, I would move to consider that as a recommendation for a motion to do that, if we really needed to do that. Or we can also do a consideration of appropriation of funds now too. I mean, this is actually a decision of the board to do that too. So, yeah, what thoughts?
So this is the first time, because it just opened 7 months ago, so maybe
Yes.
moving forward,
Yes.
because funds are tight, if we could possibly set it up for 25 might be.
And I'll explain that a little bit when I speak as to why it's going the way it is right now. But yes, that makes sense. We knew going into this that, but since I have to, by legislation, I'm mandated to be here to give my presentation. I just figured we would do both at the same time.
Sure, absolutely.
I appreciate you guys all listening to me and learning more about our unit. If you ever have any questions about what we do, please feel free to contact me.
Well, it's great. I don't think Adam or Dale have been through that, have you?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Adam
Yeah,
has.
so, I mean, if Dale wants to go through there, maybe he can get a kind of a tour of it or whatever. And,
Yes.
And, so, I mean, I think everybody else went through there when you had your opening and stuff. And, yeah, it's a great facility. Awesome. All in one place, so it's great.
I should note one last note, and I apologize. So Valley Pine Center is the only residential crisis stabilization unit that's located in a certified community behavioral health center. So what that means is all of these other units are standalone. They're in their own building in a different end of town.
Neighborhood.
So if they have to see a therapist, they have to load them in a car to take them there. If they need to see their case management for like behavioral health home, they have to load them in a car and take them there. For us, it's the person walks down the hall, enters the unit, and takes the individual back to their office. So we are the only one that's located in a one-stop shop. Everything else is kind of separate. And then we're also, so us and Wellstone are the only two that are connected to CCBHC. So Wellstone Center's in a different part of town, but they are connected to the CCBHC, which is Range Mental Health. So, but we are the only one that's the only one in the state that's in its same building.
So they
Yeah.
can save more money.
Yes.
Yes, and also
Yeah, and that
for
was the consideration.
people in a mental health
Right.
crisis, it's nice to have that warm handoff.
And they can
know.
see multiple people in the same day, so they can see their therapist, they can see their behavioral health home, they can see their care coordinator, they can go over to substance use disorder, which is right next door, and go to a group. So it's all right in that building. So they're very,
Thank you.
very well coordinated.
Very good, yeah.
And so I
It's
guess,
well
again, wishes, were we to refer this to the budget committee, which would obviously still be us here, refer this to the budget committee, and then we would have send out those forms to be submitted again. So if you see something, please let us know, probably by the end of August, I suppose.
I think it's due by the end of August.
I think it's due by the end of August, so if you
Okay.
don't see something, maybe by the middle of August, maybe, give Adam a call or one of us a call to
Sure.
get that form
That'll work.
submitted or whatever. So,
Yes, thank you so much.
But, yeah, we'll certainly put it under consideration, and thank you for all your work you're doing out there too, so.
Yeah, Thanks
Okay,
for
so-
all your hard work.
Me.
He's here for one more.
I got one more. I got
No,
one
we're
more.
but running
I'll be
behind,
quick. So as some of you know,
But we'll make this motion here.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to refer and review to the management, or not to the management, to the budget committee, which would consist of the board here, upon receiving the appropriation request. So I would accept that as a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach. Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Did you get that? Kind of mushed together there, but
Do you want me to bow out?
no, you're
For
fine.
the budget
Okay.
committee for appropriation request.
sounds good. Hearing no other discussion, again, thank you. Hearing no other discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. Thank you.
I'll be quick. Okay. So as I mentioned, the crisis team has a grant from the state. We have a DHS crisis grant. Our 2024 amount is $367,301 to operate the crisis team. That money is independent of Valley Pine Center. 2024, the county has generously given us an appropriation of $5,000. So that was in 23 and 24. I am now in the process of doing my application for the 25 and 26 grant cycle. As a part of that, I am legally obligated to come and beg for money. So here I am begging. Essentially, what I'm looking for is a $5,000 appropriation in 25 and 26. The reason I'm here now, knowing full well that the budget isn't until August, is my grant application is due at the end of June, and I have to have that decision in that application. That A, I have to prove that I was here, and B, I have to have the decision for 25 and 26. So that's why I'm here.
You can give a little history too, because I don't know if everyone heard the history of every other county in the state history, and we. did not
Yes,
contribute.
okay, so all 87 counties in Minnesota are covered by a team. Some counties like St. Louis have two teams, north and south. The rest of them either have a team or it's a multi-team. For example, Hubbard, Clearwater, Beltrami, and Lake of the Woods is all covered by the same team, a very large geographic area. as part of these crisis grants that were established in 2016, each team is allocated a certain number of funds. Our allocation, as I noted, for 24 is $367,301. So that provides, it's 24/7, 365 mobile face-to-face crisis response, meet you where you are. So that's the hospital, the county building, everywhere. The only stipulation for that is you have to be in the county. If you're not, so if you're at Captogama, I can't see you. The Northern St. Louis team has to come see you. And we do not cover the Net Lake reservation. They have their own team, so that portion of the county is not covered. As part of it, all of the counties prior to 2023, we were the only county that did not have a county contribution. So all of the other teams had a contribution from the county. We caught a little bit of flack for that at meetings, but we were okay with it because we understand our county. Lifelong county resident, I get it. So basically, what I'm asking for is, so in 23 and 24, you guys did 5,000 each year. I'm just asking to continue. So 5,000 in 24, 5,000 in 25. A little background on what we did with that money, because that money is considered outside of our budget. So the state doesn't let us put that into our budget, like decide where we're going to spend it right away. So what we did with that is, if anybody's familiar with the Stick It to Stigma hockey game that we did in February of 23, and then we did another one now in February of 24, and we did a Spike Stigma event at Falls High School in October. So it's always local teams. So Stick It to Stigma is always Lake of the Woods versus International Falls. I know Lake of the Woods is in our county, but we still serve that area and we help back them up. And then the volleyball game was Little Fork versus International Falls. So give away hats, items, all kinds of swag, we'll call it. With that also, usually right around those times, I get into the schools to give a presentation on 988. So I get into the English classes and the high schoolers get presentations on what the crisis team does and how 988 works. So that's what we utilized. We utilized those funds to help purchase the 988 apparel and advertising materials that we gave away in those events.
Just for the public, just explain a little bit about 988.
So 988 is the National Suicide Prevention Line. It's now nationwide. That is answered locally in Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids answers the northern half of the state. So that would be what we would consider our dispatch. So if somebody calls 988, you can call it, you can text it, you call 988, you get them. They triage the call, and if you need to meet with somebody face-to-face, then we get a phone call, and that's where we go.
Do they track that off your cell phone or off the phone number that's calling?
Unfortunately, I think you know the answer to that question. Unfortunately, they do not have E911 capabilities. So with that being said, if you live in Koochiching County, but you do not have a 218 cell phone, let's say you've got a 651 because you got it in the cities, or 701 in Wisconsin, or North Dakota, 715 in Wisconsin, it's going to go to a different call center. So that's why there's the 844 number, the 844-772-4724. So so we have both, but you can text, like I said, you can text it, whatever. That is the best way to get a hold of the crisis team, or that is how you get a hold of the crisis team.
And that's a local state number, 844.
Yep, okay. It's nationwide for 988. I do have my numbers if you're interested in just the numbers for 2023. So we answered 131 calls for service and charged exactly $0 for those services. I will also note that prior to Valley Pine Center opening, we had 73 nights utilized in our single crisis bed last year. So, but that's countywide, and we have been everywhere in the county. We've been to the North Home School multiple times. We've been to the Indus School when it was open. I've seen people in Birchdale. We've been, again, in a fish house of all places. I've been to shacks. We meet you where you are. So.
Okay, so because of the education that they also are giving through some of this funding is going into the schools and such. One of my employees is going to be entering her second year at UMD for social work and psychology, and she's also one of my employees for the summer. So again, I always go back to growing your own. Let's try to grow our own. So that's pretty cool too, getting the word out.
So that's why the timing is the way that the timing is, because my grant application is due at the end of June. So then I would need to put, there's a line on the spreadsheet that says county funding. So,
Absolutely. So, so being asked and requested is for $5,000 for 2025 and 2026 to help fund the crisis response team above and beyond the normal funding grant that's received for community, community education and outreach.
yep, that's what we utilize it for.
Okay.
So yeah, the DHS grant covers the salaries, the rent, the rest of the stuff. So that's what we utilize it
I'll
for.
make that motion.
And I'll second it. It's a great facility. I've actually been to the games when you guys have been giving out the hats and
Swag.
shirts and stuff like that there, and
On the black market, those hats were going for $25 a piece.
The kids just love them.
They love it. So
the black market.
So
Yeah.
motion by Commissioner Hill, seconded by Commissioner Roach.
One clarification, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
The funding for 25 and 26?
yes,
Okay,
yep.
so you just need to know to the grant application, so we can budget for that next year and, okay.
Gotcha.
Yep, 23 and 24 has already been appropriated and
And
handled.
then should we have an official appropriation form? We need that from him, or?
Probably as a formality, but this approval will carry through onto the budget, and we'll talk about that when we get into the appropriations.
Okay, pending approval, maybe we'll just have a form to fill out just to.
You know how to get a hold of me.
For a company, so. Any further discussion or questions? Well, thank you both for all the work that you do, and appreciate you being here and taking the time to kind of get out there and blank out the stigma and do what you do.
We're working on it.
I appreciate it.
We're working on it.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
the opportunity.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Right, so hearing no other discussion, I will, for the consideration, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? And the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
good day.
Cool. Hi, Joan.
Okay, we're firing up for election time again. Just a quick reminder before I forget, filing period did open today and it closes at 5 p.m. on June 4th for the county commissioner seats in soil and water, along with other state and federal candidate filings. So. Okay, this is about our absentee mail and Yokava ballot board. In the past, it's always been the auditor treasurer staff that handles all the incoming mail, whether it's mail or absentee. There has been a recent Minnesota Supreme Court ruling by several challenges from the Minnesota Voters Alliance. The court case specifically was versus Ramsey County, in which they have determined that for any incoming mail or absentee ballots that require signature verification, we have to look at like the paper application and compare to the signature on the envelope. Deputy auditor treasurers and staff cannot do that. It has to be done by 2 election judges of differing party affiliation. And they are continuing to push this and challenge us. Which county was it? Lake County just got sued as well, and they actually settled out of court, and they had agreed to absolutely have no staff on their ballot board, which isn't required, but that's what they did to get it thrown out of court. So I want to be proactive before we end up in court and change the makeup of our ballot board. What a lot of counties have done is this perpetual ballot board resolution that gives the auditor the authority to create that board, knowing our election judges and their confidential party affiliation statements. And I've talked to several staff members that are willing to be trained as election judges, so they could just do it on downtime. It wouldn't take very long. There's so few that actually need to be compared, but it wouldn't cost the county any more money, and yet we would still be meeting the statutory requirements. So that's what I'm asking for, is that resolution to give the auditor authority to create this board per statutory and Minnesota Supreme Court rulings.
So then just one quick question, Joan. This board, when it's developed, is that public information?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, not their party affiliation,
Party affiliation,
but the names
folks
are,
that on
yes.
there, okay.
Mhm.
Just 2 different parties?
Yep.
Doesn't have to be Democrat, Republican, it could be communist.
Well, no, they have to be major political parties to differ majoring. So as of now, we've lost the Legal Marijuana Party has just now this year lost their major political party status. That just happened. So it would be one of each. Yeah. And I think we have enough internal staff that said they would be interested in this, that we could find one of each. It will work. And Sandor right now can also be, even though she's a staff member, if she is trained as an election judge, she can be one of those as well. Auditor, treasurer, staff can still handle all the mail ballots and the things that don't require signature verification, but we just want to cover our bases on that.
What is UCAVA?
That's for uniformed and overseas voters. They have a little bit different process that they can apply for a ballot. We can actually email them a copy of the ballot, and they can email it back to us, and then we have to reproduce that ballot on an official ballot, and that also requires an election judge from the two major political parties for that process.
They have different guidelines or different parameters for those, right? What do you call it?
Yeah, you have to meet certain qualifications to get that ballot.
They have different timelines as well, right? They have maybe a little more open timelines.
No, you'll cover. We have to send out. Most of them apply online, and we have to get the applications sent out to them by certain timelines. But
I thought I read one time they just had different parameters, not parameters necessarily for voting, but just timelines, more about timelines. Maybe extended timelines because of the mail or whatever. So.
we still have to have their ballots back by 8 p.m. on election day.
I have a question about filing.
Mm-hmm.
School board races, can they be filed at your office?
No, they have to file at the school.
At the district office?
Yep, we accept filings for soil and water, county commissioners, and state representatives, if this is their home county. Like if you were to run for state representative, you could file here.
There you go.
There you go.
That came out real pretty quick.
Yeah.
Discussion, vote, okay, Dale? No. So we're all good to go, and you're covering all the bases with this UCAVA and with...
Yep. I'll have to come back a little bit later and have you approve election judges as well, but we don't have all those sorted through yet. So.
Okay. Okay, so today it's this resolution establishing an absentee mail and UCAVA ballot board for Koochiching County. Right.
But you print the ballots for the school district races.
They go on our ballots, yes. They get me all those candidate affidavits, and we get them, make sure they're on the ballot.
The only election that doesn't actually start at that office, right? Who else would be outside of the filing?
Well, the cities, all like mayor and council members file at their respective cities. Hospital districts file at, like in Big Falls, for instance, the representatives for Big Park Valley file in Big Falls.
Any other questions for Joe? Hearing none, I would accept a motion to adopt the resolution establishing the absentee mail and UCAVA ballot board.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Thank you, Commissioner Roach. Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion
Thank you.
carries.
Thank you.
Hi, Dean. Is Dean still? Oh, yeah. Hey, thank you, Dean. You've been here for a while.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of looking at approval of a potential purchase of a van.
Correct. I'm here representing the motor pool today. And I went out and dug around, got some pricing and stuff for, they're requesting a minivan rather than like an Equinox or anything like that. They'd like to have something with a sliding door, something that has more capacity. Has to be all-wheel drive in order to get around in the wintertime and like that. So first thing I did, I went and visited our local Dodge dealer right here in town, and I did get a price on that. John came over and saw me in my office here and supplied a number of the $43,995. And I think he said this particular unit would be about the end of July. We could expect it if we were to move ahead with a purchase from him. We'd see the vehicle in the end of July sometime. So just so that you know that. The other ones that I went to Hibbing Chrysler, and I did get a quote from Tim there. His quote was $44,580, and his availability would be about 1 week. Now, I don't know if there's any time constraints about getting the vehicle on the property or not. I don't think there is, but anyway, that was his availability for the unit. Again, that one was for $44,580, and this was every one of these quotes are the same unit. It's a minivan. It's a Touring L, I believe it is. All-wheel drive. Most cases the units are going to be white in color, although Tim at Hibbing Chrysler gives you the availability of possibility of black, silver, granite, or a couple others I see he's got there. But the next price I came up with was I went to Virginia, Washke Family Chrysler. These are all 2004 Chrysler Pacifica Touring Ls, all-wheel drive.
24.
24s.
Not 2004, 24.
Oh, yeah, 24. 2024, yeah. Yeah, these would be
It'd be half the price.
Yeah, half the price. Anyway, looking for my price on this one. I know it was about 46. What was it, Rick?
$46,898.
Yeah. And that's where they came in at. And then I went to state bid. And I contacted Todd in Burnsville, Dodge, is where the state bid locates out of. And to get into the state bid program, it's like a year in advance. So we had our meeting in October to get the car, and so in order to get into the state bid, you got to be there in June the previous year. So like now, if we were going to get a vehicle, I'd have to go in June to work out all the details, and then we'd get that car about a year later, or about this time next year, and that'd be a 25. But last year on the state bid program, the vehicles were coming in at $43,870 that they did. And so pricing wise, I got to believe our own local guy right here. And I'll make the recommendation that we go with a local provider for the vehicle, simply because he's awful close to the state bid for this year.
$120 away.
Yeah.
Well, the state bid might be more next year.
Yeah, correct. It will be, and I don't know those numbers because they're just going to start doing it in June here. So they're all build-outs, So, but anyway, that's what I found on vehicles for the motor pool. It's up to the board, I guess, to decide what you'd like to do.
You got that budgeted, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's a budgeted expense for the motor pool this year. We've got $45,000 budgeted.
I would say let's buy it from our local guy.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach. You made a motion.
I'll second.
To purchase a minivan from the recommended carpool from Paul's Chrysler and Dodge Jeep Ram in the amount of $43,995. Seconded by Commissioner McIntyre. Any further discussion? Sounds good. They're right on the money with that. So
yeah, very good. I was
Good job
pleasantly
of getting
surprised.
multiple bids too.
Yeah.
Got a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I figured after I saw the other two that came in, I could have went out to Bemidji and all that, but I didn't. I just pulled back at that point.
Well, they come visit you.
And
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Better service than that.
yeah, all about that. So
That's awesome. All right.
That's it.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries.
thank you. Yep.
All right. Next up, information systems. How are you doing?
Morning, Commissioners. Doing well. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for hanging out and paying attention.
Yeah, no problem.
We're a little behind, but not too bad. What you got for us?
All right. First item I have is LFA ACC host site funding fee for the host site fee. LFA has decided that we're a continued good fit for their member program and are planning to place a member with us for their program year 2024, which will span August of this year to July of next year. Having the member for the past few years has been a great positive impact for the community, and I have some details of that we can get into as well. During our host site interview, LFA ACC had signified that our host site fee for this program year 2024 would be $19,000 out of the maximum of $35,000, so about a little over half of what the maximum could be. So we need to determine where those funds will come from. In conversations with a few different folks, Adam had recommended contingency funds with the possibility of KDA as well. KTI has offered $2,000 to help with that as well. And then in a conversation with you, Jason, you had recommended potentially ARPA funds as well. So looking to try to find where we're going to get that host site fee funding.
And then you're looking for, this is be our potential third year?
This will be our third year program.
So, and it's been kind of growing every year. It's been getting...
Yeah, the first year in 2022 program year was 15, and then last year was 17, and then this year they're requesting 19.
And then a little of the history of this the fellow, what the fellowship has been doing. I know Tim was just here. He didn't go from A to Z, and I know we have a former fellow also here. So
yeah, so the first program year had some major accomplishments. Got a lot of grants. $3,000 award from KCDA, $5,000 from Marshall K. Knudsen, $3,000 from Midco. Jackie in her program year worked on a collaborative project with the Office of Broadband on a $77,000 broadband expansion project, and also got a $4,000 grant from them as well from the Office of Broadband and Digital Connection Committee. So the member in themselves, gives back a lot to the community and goes out and finds more money to host projects and continue to give back to the community. Our last member for this last program year was focused on device refurbishment and donation to the community, donating, I think now, roughly 60 devices back to the community, hosting events like the Generation Digital Student Navigators, where students from the local schools meet with some of the senior citizens in the county and help them with their technology needs. Tim also was working on the e-waste collection events, as well as signing people up for the ACP program, which is kind of up in the air right now what's going to ultimately happen with that, as well as seeking additional grants for project funding. One of the things with ACC members, they can't go out for grants to continue the program, but they can look for grants to fund the projects they want to do during their term of service.
Well, and I think we're, I'll speak on behalf of as a KTI member as well. We have a goal. One of the pillar projects based on going back to 2014 and some of the mill closure stuff and some of the pillar projects. This is one of those projects, and this is actually flourishing right now. I think we're meeting the goals and exceeding the goals of what we want to do as a county digitally. And not just giving away computers and not just having meetings and stuff, but I think this the overall picture of what our community is doing shows ISPs, providers, outside providers, other providers to invest in our community. So, and that's been happening too. Yes, we put some funding in there, but they didn't have to. They didn't have to do anything. We could have given them money and they could have said, no, thank you. And they didn't. They invested an equal amount in our community. And we're not talking just 10 or 15,000. We're talking millions of dollars that they put in based on some of this ongoing digital equity, ongoing KTI committee work. So we're really kind of established right now in the world of technology. I mean, we're not the A1 top one, but we're working on it. We're working and we're doing a good job. We're getting these companies interested in being here, wanting to be here. And then with that, then you are opening the door for the future and some of the technology that companies and people need to use to want to be here. So that was one of the pillars that was a potential working to make our community more attractive, and it's worked, and it has. There's evidence and proof of it, and you see the projects going on at the lake, you see the projects going on out towards Ericksburg and beyond. That was I think over $5 million project there. That was early on. That was probably what 5 years ago. And now Midco again is committed to doing a project up the lake to continue the high-speed fiber all the way up to the end of the road, basically, with the potential of continuing that project and maybe a phase 4 and 5. There's 1 through 3. That phase 4 and 5 potential later on, along with the 155 grant. That's a big deal too. That's a multimodal site over there. Multimodal site. It's owned by the City of National Falls, KDA, I believe. And in order to do business, you have to have communications anymore. So I think it's a good thing that we're doing, and so it's benefiting all facets. We're benefiting the business opportunity as well as the local citizens and the work from home people that we're trying to target. So, but I think the juice is well worth the squeeze for funding this myself, and I know it's a little tight. It's going to be tight, but we do have, I think, some KDA funds allocated right now.
About 10 grand.
About 10,000. So we do have some KDA possibilities there too for funding. With the what am I looking for? The nursing program request. They kind of pulled back their request. So there's an opportunity there. Of course, now there's another request here too, but. So there's some opportunities to fill this year for another year. So, and I believe we have a potential fellow interview. So we've been kind of chosen.
Yep. Yeah, they have intent to place a member with us, and we have a candidate in mind. The interview with the candidate is going to be on Thursday.
Right. Okay. So pending this here, that would be to actually interview a person. So. And what they're looking for in those interviews, Justin, I guess, for the person, they're looking for communicators and coordinators and really get out in the community and identify the issues where we need help and where we're lacking, and just basically better communicators than I. So they get out there and they really coordinate with people. Jackie, kicked it off, did a great job. Tim's following up with that, doing a great job. I know that this next person here too, and you're just kind of evolving into being able to have those lines of communication established, and with that comes a lot of glad handing and getting to know people, which helps us out too when it comes to some of the funding opportunities, I'll say. And knows that we're serious about doing stuff like that too. So I think that's all. It's kind of a good opportunity for us to continue that at least. So.
Yeah, absolutely. The last two members have done a great job of going out and getting additional funding for the program.
Yeah, myself, I was involved even as a pre-commissioner, or doing this here position, was interested and involved, in at least listening to some of the opportunities early on with some early members, still members involved, so probably 6 years ago. So, but anyway, I'll be quiet now. Thank you. Thank you, Justin, too, for presenting. So the consideration is to commit to funding the fiscal year 2024 ACC host site fee and to permit the process to move forward in the amount of $19,000. Potential funding avenues are KDA, contingency, and or ARPA. So, and I think committing would move us forward, and the funding would have to be approved, obviously, at a later date, more than likely, or we can do that now too if it's a consideration. I don't know where we're at with exactly where we're at with our ARPA and exactly where we're at with our KDA right now. So
there's 10,000 unallocated funds available in KDA.
Okay.
Contingency, I think there was 100,000 not earmarked. There was a portion for health insurance increases that we need to portion at the end of the year. Out of that, up at about 100,000. I believe last check there was about 20,000 left in ARPA. ARPA might be good, we could refer to ARPA committee for this fund. I think it would be a good idea.
Well, upon consideration for funding would be 10,000 from KDA potentially, and/or a portion from the ARPA funds to be determined. Would have to go through that committee. So.
Make the motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Howell. Thank you, Commissioner Roach. And you have to let them know, I think we have to have this allocated by the end of August, is that correct?
I'm not sure the exact timeline. They're working on the final contract. They said that that should be out sometime this week.
I think we have our next meeting first meeting in July, so we should be able to figure something out by then too.
Okay.
So.
As soon as I get that contract, I'll make sure to get it in front of everybody.
Okay.
So for next year, could we like be able to budget something like this if it's happened in the last couple of years, so we know what's coming out?
I can add it to my budget, yeah.
I've heard, then we're not in the middle of it doing this, every time, and we've done it for 3 years. It should have almost been like budgeted, kind of, right? In a sense, I'm thinking out loud here.
Well, we were hoping to get to, we were hoping a lot of things. We're hoping of a nonprofit status and then applying for nonprofit grants to pay for this. So, but that we're not there yet.
Okay.
We're not there to that point yet. So I think some of my thoughts, and I think other people's thoughts, are there's other grants that are more substantial than, which these are very substantial for some of the local projects. But we're talking substantial in being able to pay fees for many, many years. But those grants take a lot of time, and you got to focus on what you're doing, and there's timelines that they have. So, and some of them are not easily accessible, but I think we have a good case, and I think kind of following up what the county's doing and has done is going to promote that benefit for the grant that I'm thinking of. That's going to benefit overall for a longer period of time. So then hopefully there wouldn't be a request. So anyway, yeah, you're right. It could definitely be something to consider in the future to budget, and we can maybe look at it for the 2024.
Yeah, I'll add it. We can discuss it. Yeah.
So we can
At least talk about it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, and if it happens, it does, because we don't actually decide whether we get a fellow or not. Actually, the ACC decides. So we don't make a decision to say, hey, yeah, we want that there. They make a decision to say, okay, your community will commit to your community. So it's not really our decision to do that. So if we don't get chosen to do this, well then we wouldn't be committing any funds to it, because we wouldn't. So anyway, but yeah, we could certainly do that if you want to wrap it up into a budgetary item. That would be fine. So any further discussion? Are we all understand okay with it? Okay, hearing nothing else, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. Thank you. And you are looking for some more space.
Yeah. So second item, upgrading our Datto backup device. Our current device is a Datto Cirrus 4 that has 12 terabytes of space. That free space is running low, especially with some of the critical server upgrades that we're doing. In those upgrades, essentially we have to replicate the server to the newer version and then move all the data over. So there are 2 instances of the server live at the same time, and that takes up a lot of space. So we're looking to upgrade that 12 terabyte device to an 18 or a 24 terabyte device. I got 2 separate quotes, both from VC3, which came with a 50% discount on the device cost by going through them. The 18 terabyte Datto Cirrus 5 option for $7,935, or the 24 terabyte option for $9,360. Both of those options do come with fees for them to manage those devices for us, which we're already paying for the Datto Cirrus 4. So no actual increase there, just something to note that we do pay for a management portion as well. My recommendation would be to go with the 24 terabyte option for an increased amount of $1,400 total over the 18 terabyte. Just extra space, it'll last us longer, and we can store more data. This was a budgeted expense, and just looking for board approval to enter that 3-year commitment and go with the 24 terabyte option.
question, is this an annual commitment of $93.60?
No, the annual commitment is about $1,300.
Okay.
So it was budgeted?
Correct.
All right. I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre.
A second.
Thank you, Commissioner Howell. Any discussion? And that's a 2024 project. It sounds like if you can get in there. Great, hearing no other discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Any motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nathan,
How's it going?
good, how are you doing?
Good.
You didn't listen to any of the states? You haven't been following any of that state stuff, have you?
No. If you want some entertainment some night, look at the second half of the floor session from Sunday night. The last 45 minutes are pretty interesting, is what I'll say. So it's pretty much just steady screaming for 45 minutes. You can't hear anything. So.
Oh boy. Well, let's not throw shoes here, so.
No.
It wasn't shoe throwing, I said it just before shoe throwing.
No, I know. Don't throw your shoes. That did not happen. So you got a couple things.
Yeah, so the first one is to consider the repurchase request, approve a repurchase request of a recently tax forfeited property. So the former owner has made the payment in full already for the delinquent taxes and penalties, and so this is just kind of goes in line. This is the preferred avenue for things to go. So this is pretty standard procedure. So.
Yep, I'm glad to see that person get that back.
Yep.
I would accept. Yep, absolutely. I would accept the motion to repurchase of the repurchase request.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach. And seconded by Commissioner Howell. Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And so just a quick little update. So the whole tax forfeiture, Tyler versus Hennepin's. So both of those. So as you recall, there's a settlement bill, if you will, to kind of cover the last 7 years of tax forfeitures, and then there's what was referred to as a policy bill to deal with new tax forfeitures moving forward. So both of those bills passed. The settlement bill actually was a unanimous in both the House and the Senate, so it was, in spite of what happened the last couple hours of session this year, that bill actually passed and the governor signed it late last week, and it was unanimous across the board in both chambers in the House and the Senate. So that was a good bipartisan piece of legislation there. Policy bill dealing with new forfeitures into the future, that got lumped into this, if you want to call it the mega omnibus bill, where they kind of rolled 6 or 7 different omnibus bills into one big one that they kind of did at the 11th hour. That got put into that. So we're kind of weeding through all of that yet. So I will come back to the board at committee of the whole at some point in probably June and just kind of lay all of that out for you all. So you kind of are up on that. But at the end of the day, I think both pieces of legislation it's a win for the counties. Some pieces of it aren't ideal, but overall it was a good stroke of business. So.
Well, thanks for keeping track of it. You've been keeping us well informed, so
yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I know, special thanks to, St. Louis County, both Commissioner McDonald and their land commissioner, Julie Marinucci. She spent a lot of time down in St. Paul over the last month and a half, different, both covering both of these bills. They had multiple hearings and committee stops, so that always helps. So
absolutely, yeah, they did good work.
Yeah,
good people.
Yeah.
And you have timber sales.
Yeah, so this is not, this doesn't need any board action, it's just an informational item. So we had our second timber auction of the year on Wednesday, May 1st down in Big Falls. We sold all tracks but one. We had one track that remains unsold, but I think we're looking at a way to repackage that at a future auction, maybe add some additional timber onto that to get that wood moved as well. So we sold a little over 28,000 cords for a grand total of just over $1 million, and then additionally, one time a year, it happens to be this May auction, we sell decorative spruce tips. So it's where they go out, they harvest basically black spruce, young regen black spruce and they sell them to, garden centers, Home Depots, that type of stuff for decorative arrangements around the holidays. So that's a pretty good money maker for us too. So we offered up just over 280,000 pieces of that material for a sale value of 167,000. So our total auction on May 1st, we brought in just under $1.2 million in total value. So that was good. Prices, stumpage prices, aspen is kind of the benchmark one that we talk about. Our aspen average was up. We were at just under $40 a cord for our aspen average. Our last auction in January, we were at just under $34, so we saw about a $6 a cord increase. I think it's a function of just the winter that we had. A lot of people had to cut summer wood, frankly, to kind of keep going through the winter, and mill inventory, yard inventories around the state are not ideal, and we're looking at 3 to 4 inches of rain coming at us in the next couple of days. That's going to make the situation even touchier. But I think just that folks are just trying to reload on summer type wood. We saw our summer harvestable wood really, that's where we saw the biggest gains, which is not a total shock, but that's kind of how the market goes. So.
Very good. You done good.
Yeah.
At the state DNR auction, it's about twice what asking for DNR in Lake of the Woods.
Is that right? Oh boy.
On the aspen.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite twice, but pretty close average-wise, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Very good work.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Right wood in the right place, basically. Most of it's in the southern part of our county.
Yeah.
That's prime area, I guess, for different directions.
And then next sale will be in
early August. We have our next one, and then our last one of the year. So we kind of do 4 of them a year. So we'll have one in August. I can't remember. It's that first Wednesday in August, if I remember right. And then we'll have one right away in November, and that'll be the last one of the year. So.
You gotta keep it up too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully the trend continues, I guess. So. To a point.
Ebbs and flows. Right?
Yeah, it does. It's very cyclical. The forest products market is very cyclical. So.
Yeah, good numbers though.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
All
thank
right.
you, Nathan.
All right. Thanks. Thank you.
Next is Public Health and Human Services. Hi, Derek.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good. How are you doing?
Oh, pretty good.
Thanks for hanging in there.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to pass these things around. I noticed in the board packet the scanned copy didn't come through very good. So this one, you can see it a little better. Oh, I should have kept one for myself, too.
Yeah, wow. And you're looking at a couple approvals here, or a few approvals for this Caseworks?
Yeah, they're all three dependent on each other. This is all three of them are for this Caseworks product that we've talked about a few times here at the committee of the whole, and then at the board meeting in the end of April. Got the contracts back from these organizations. They were reviewed by County Attorney Nagloski, as well as Justin. He looked through them as well for the technical aspect of it. Everything looks good and in place. I do want to commend County Attorney Nagloski. He actually found a couple errors in one of the contracts that they were very surprised about, because they've had these same contracts for 2 years, and he was the first one that identified them. So, yeah, so kudos to him for having a good eye on that. So that's very good. So. The contracts came in, the dollar amounts actually, for once, came in lower than what the range was that they had quoted us at the beginning, which is a bonus for us. Came in at about a grand total of $20,000 less roughly, so which is a good thing.
That's great.
Yeah, a little better than $20,000 less than what we thought. This document I handed out to you guys just to kind of break down the costs and make it a little easier to understand than trying to look through contracts or try to read it all out in a narrative format. The first one here, if you look at the top of the page, the Caseworks implementations costs. This is the initial cost in order to get this system up and running through NCT. That's the first agreement that we have. If you look there, I broke out the cost for the financial assistance unit, the child support unit, and the social services unit individually. The grand total is $290,811. We get different scales of federal reimbursement depending on what category, what unit of our department that falls under. So if you see financial assistance, you get 50% federal reimbursement. Child support, you get 66%. And social services is 20% reimbursement, which is unfortunate that one's that low compared to the other ones, but that's just the way the Department of Human Services at the federal level does that. So the next column, you see the reimbursement amounts to where it equals out to $121,953 total. That's our reimbursement amount. So the actual cost is $168,857.12. That's the actual cost. The next graph below is the on-base data migration costs. So on-base is the current electronic record that we're using only for the financial assistance area. And that is sunsetting at the end of 24. We were in a regional contract with St. Louis County. They pulled out of it, moved to Caseworks. That really kind of spurred this as a whole Region 3. The Region 3 is moving to this project. As we know, that's us, Cook, Lake, Carleton. They're all moving to that, and because even Itasca is moving for the financial services, they weren't at first, but the discount kind of pulled them in, because we're getting a 40% discount off the financial assistance and child support one, and a 35% off of the social services one. The reason the social services one is 35 instead of 40 is because Carleton had implemented the social services one a couple of years ago, so they're not involved in this Caseworks project for that. So the total cost for that data migration costs is $26,250. We will get 50% reimbursement back from that, from the feds, from federal reimbursement. So the grand total for that is $13,125. So that total together for the total cost of initial implementation is, in the next chart down, $181,982. We have funds, two different funding sources. We have unwinding funds in the amount of $82,907 and 4E recovery funds in the amount of $24,242. So the actual cost to the department or the county is $74,833. That is in the red right there. That's the grand total for the phase 1, phase 2, get everybody in financial assistance, child support, and social services on this CaseWorks electronic documentation system.
All three of those systems are this.
Yep, all three of them. All three units. Looking at ongoing costs, we elected to do a hosting agreement with Candy-Ojai County just because of the required technological capabilities. Justin went over the different options we had as well, and that was his recommendation as well, is we would go with the Candy-Ojai hosting as far as ongoing costs and what it would take for us to get our IT unit up to what that would need to be, you know, the different servers and the technical stuff that I don't know.
It would cost more to implement it here.
Yes, yes.
With the additional servers and licensing and everything that we would need to run it here, it would cost more than a hosted option.
Yeah. Yeah, and every county in the region besides St. Louis and Carleton are doing the hosted option through Candy-Ojai. So that ongoing cost, we get federal reimbursement off of that. So the ongoing cost will equate out to about, it's $6,000, but with federal reimbursement, it's about $3,460. There's also ongoing costs with CaseWorks. Those are broken out for 25, 26, 27, and 28. So you see the total annual support there. In the red is the cost to the county after federal reimbursement. And then after federal reimbursement, added together the hosting costs and the ongoing costs for the CaseWorks product, you'll see in 2025, after federal reimbursement, it's $29,000, 2026, $30,000, 2027, $31,000, and then $33,000. That's just factored in for a percentage increase each year due to those costs. Currently, we're paying about $21,000 a year for ongoing support for OnBase, and that is just for our financial assistance unit, and that is not nearly as smart of a program as this. It's basically just document storage that you have workflows with. This brings in all sorts of additional capabilities as far as autofilling forms in cases, bulk mailing, different things like that that will save staff time and make them more efficient in what they're doing.
And these are for all three of the systems?
Yes. Okay. Yep, and that's all three of the systems. Okay. So, yeah, so we're going from $21,000 for just one system to, in 2025, it's prorated for this year. It's pulled in with the costs in the top portion for the implementation costs, sure. But this is ongoing, and yeah, so it's an $8,000 difference, but we're adding really you can consider it 3 additional systems, because there's a system for the METS and Maxis users. Those are both in financial assistance, but they're 2 separate programs in the financial assistance unit, and then there's a child support unit and the social services unit. One thing I did want to bring up with, you know, that number there, that 74,833 that we would be doing out of reserves. I did just crunch a few numbers on, unfortunately but fortunately for us this year, we're seeing quite a dramatic, it's not necessarily going to affect the bottom line of our budget, because with the vacancies that we've been dealing with for, you know, a good chunk of the thing, new people in positions where salaries aren't where they were, we're looking at about $76,982 in salary savings in 2024. So the bottom line of our budget, it's not, they're going to offset. So unfortunate that we were short and everything, but fortunate in the fact that bringing this in, it's not going to dramatically alter a budget or anything. So.
Will the staff shortage and the improved efficiency, the positions stay unfilled?
I'm hoping they won't stay unfilled. We're pretty close to full staff right now. We are short 1 position right now that we are working through. So that's the eligibility worker that the vacancy was from when we finally were able to fill the eligibility worker or the financial assistance supervisor position. So
with the increased efficiency, how do you spend that?
Well, everybody's pretty busy as it is right now, working larger caseloads because there has been the shortage and stuff for a while. We'll have to do some research on that to see exactly how much time it is going to be saving with the increased efficiency. There's going to be a lot of training and everything on this. It's going to take, the kickoff would be starting in June, end of June, and it wouldn't be going live until September. So a lot of training and getting used to it, but it should increase the time that people have, and that's something that I can try to analyze and see, make sure we're still at the correct staffing levels.
I guess that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you'll have retirements, I assume.
Yep.
People moving on.
Yep.
Things like that. I mean, if you're functioning and you've been down that many positions.
Yep.
We really haven't had trouble recruiting, but it's just been, we've had a lot of promotions all the way up. Since Derek took his job, it's just been backfilling, promote and then promote and then promote.
Yep.
We've had a couple outside hires, but we've had pretty good applicants, I would say.
Yep.
For most positions. It's just a matter of going through that process of getting down to an entry-level position.
Yep.
It's just been kind of a domino effect of backfilling key positions.
Yep. That's really what it kind of boils down to. I moved into the director position, then it took a couple months to fill the public health supervisor position. As you all know, the financial assistant supervisor position was vacant until the end of April. So that one just got filled, so it's backfilling those positions is what it's been. But yeah, as Adam said, we have had good quality candidates for it. It's just been a lot of changeover. So.
And efficiencies, other efficiencies you'd mentioned before were paper. The paper efficiency of having to be able to file these here and have them filed and kind of being fillable and things like that are going to be maybe a little bit quicker and more efficient. So.
Yeah, just one aspect of it. It's the 2190 form or something like that they have to do for basically every case in financial assistance. You have to fill out this DHS form. And that form is something that you have to pull off the DHS website, fill in all the information, the client information, your information, send it out. Fairly easy thing to do, but if it takes you 5 minutes and you do 20 of them a day, you're talking a 2-hour job. Where with this system, you can select that form inside the system, so it's automatically in the case, and it'll autofill all the client information, address, name, things like that, and the county information, so that form can be sent out. So you're taking a 5-minute job and making it a 30-second job. So you're taking a 2-hour job throughout the day, with as many as you're doing, and turning it into a 30-minute job or a 20-minute job. So that's just one of the aspects, and we'll learn more as we're going through it. But every county that I've spoken with that have moved to this have really sung its praises as far as taking a lot of that paperwork burden off of staff, and it allows more time. Like in our social services unit, you have a 1-hour meeting and 2.5 hours paperwork you have to do after. Where this is going to lessen that paperwork, allow for more face-to-face interaction, more client interaction, more positive outcomes, and potentially increased revenue due to more client contact and decreased cost. With more client contact, you have less situations that could potentially arise due to what we were kind of talking about before, the crisis stabilization unit.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to get at, is it's the overall efficiency of actually spreading out, being able to help and have more time.
Yeah.
Not have the repeat type things happen, perhaps, if you have more time to spend and work with people.
And less chance for error with this too, because things will be auto-filled. I mean, it's very, very simple to get one keystroke wrong and it goes to the wrong address, and then a person doesn't get the letter. They lose their health care type of thing, because it times out. You have these timelines for the states. So a little more efficiency with that. It'll better serve our staff and our clients as well.
So you just want to run over the two different cost deals here, and we'll look at a motion.
Okay. Let's see. The first one would be approving the Next Chapter Technology. That's the company for their Caseworks electronic data management system. That cost, let me pull up the contract here so I have the exact number here. That contract is in the amount of $180,920 for the financial services, Metz, Minsure, and child support editions.
180,920.
Or 920.
Okay.
And then phase 2, this is in the same contract, is the social services edition in the amount of $109,891. For a total of $290,811. And that is before federal reimbursement.
Free reimbursement for the next chapter technology.
Yep.
For casework, CDMS.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Did you want me to go through all three of them?
Oh, we'll just do one at a time.
One at a time? Okay.
So for consideration is item 1, request approval of next chapter technology for casework CDMS system agreement in the total amount of $290,811 before federal reimbursement. Does that sound okay?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions on that one?
Is that a budgeted?
It wasn't in our budget. It wasn't budgeted for this year because it came up towards the end of the year when we weren't in place. But we are able to absorb it within our budget due to the savings from salary changes and vacant positions. So
I'll make the motion.
Commissioner Zor, thank you. Commissioner Roach.
A second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Any further discussion on this one? Anything else on this one here?
Nope.
All right. Hearing no other discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries.
thank you.
And we'll do the next one.
The next one would be the on-base extract agreement with Content Services Consulting. They work in conjunction with North Central, or with the Caseworks folks, NCT. They pull all our information out of OnBase and plug it into Caseworks. That amount before federal reimbursement is $26,250.
And worth every penny.
Yeah.
And just to mention that the previous and this here, that's one-time cost, setup fee, type, et cetera?
Yeah, this is the content services. This is a one-time thing.
Okay.
Once it's done, then everything's in Caseworks, and it'll all be in Caseworks going forward. So
Sounds good. I think it's well worth the cost for the migration. It's pretty reasonable.
Yep. Yeah, and that one we will also get 50% federal reimbursement on that. So.
Right. So for consideration is approval of Koochiching County on-base extract agreement in the amount of $26,250 before federal reimbursement.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre.
A second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. So we got the system, now we've moved it over. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. And next up is to continue continue to service the system here.
Yep, and this is with Candiota County. Like I said, all of Region 3 is going to be hosted through Candiota, except for Carleton and St. Louis, which are St. Louis is doing a cloud option, which was much more expensive, and Carleton has it on site that we looked into. It's a pretty reasonable contract. It's $6,000 per year for hosting fees. And then we get federal reimbursement on top of that for each, those amounts, the 50% for financial, 20% for social services, 66 for child support.
So then you have, for those, just a quick question, I probably know, but the continuing costs out to 26, that's gonna all be able to have federal reimbursement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, it'll come through the way we do quarterly billing through the Seegers report, and that is where that reimbursement comes back through. So, and
It's
it's
documented and followed and
Yep.
be reported and all that?
Yep. Yeah, so that reimbursement comes back through. It's just I don't know. It's just confusing to me that it's 50% for one, 66 for another, and 20% for the other when they're all considered human services programs. So
Equals out to be close to 50 for all of it.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I hear you. And what's the amount for that again? And this is going to be a contract, like a 5-year contract? Okay?
It's for 1 year, but then it renews every year after that.
Auto renew. Okay.
Yep, auto renews every year after that, and yeah, it's $6,000 per year. It's $2,000 for each unit is what it adds up to. It's $2,000 for the financial assistance, $2,000 for child support, and $2,000 for social services. So
We have an option out if we need or
Yeah.
if we need.
That's before federal funding.
Yep, that's before we get the federal reimbursement. So the amounts with federal reimbursement,
So only a couple thousand.
yeah, after federal reimbursement, it'd be $33,460.
Right. So up for consideration here is to approve County Housing Caseworks EDMS system agreement for the amount of $6,000 before federal reimbursement.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach.
A second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Any discussion? Well, good luck. Hope it goes well.
All right, thank you guys very much. It's
Looking at that. Yeah.
it should be a good thing. We got a lot of people are very excited about it. There's a few that are a little nervous about it. I mean, it's going to be a big change going from our child support and our social services are strictly on paper, and there's cases that are 12 binders thick. But closed cases and things like that, they'll still just be stored in cold storage. It'll be active cases and new cases that'll be going into the system. So.
Sure. That sounds good. Well, thanks for all your work on that.
Yeah. All right, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
You want to take time?
Absolutely. After this vote, we will take 5. Hearing no other discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. And we will break for a brief 5-minute recess. Thank you. Let's get back into the next item. Up next is Highway, and we have Trent online via Zoom. And he has a few projects to award, Trent.
All right. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Afternoon, I guess. So we got 3 items here to go over. Can everyone hear me? Good? No?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, perfect. So the first item is award low SAP 036 645 011. That's also tied to 036 677 011. CP 2024-05, and then the City of International Falls utility project. We opened bids on May 6th for this at 10 a.m. We received 3 bids, one from KGM, one from Wagner, and one from Santa Gravel. KGM came in low at $2,733,000. Sorry, $2,733,338.90. This was within about 10% of the engineer's estimate. The City of International Falls, their utility project came in significantly higher. The county portion came in within 0.5% of the engineer's estimate. But it sounds like the city was okay with that. I believe they voted to approve last night their portion of it. So I'm requesting that the board authorize the highway department to award this low SAP 036 645 011. Funding for this, of course, is facade construction for the first two projects, local option sales tax for the CP project, and then the City of International Falls pays for their portion of the utility project.
Wishes of the board.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre. Any discussion? This is a portion of 17th Street, Trent?
Correct. Yeah, from 17th Street from 9th out to on Highway 53, and then the next project is 77. That's a mill and overlay project for happy land, basically from happy land out to 71. And then the CP project is the stabilized full depth reclamation on County Road 76. It's off of 65 south of Little Fork.
Thank you. Right, so we have a first and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries.
All right, thank you. Next item is 2024 pay truck rental award. We opened bids for this on the 10th of May at 2 o'clock. Received interest from two bidders. Simba was the low bidder. You can see in the RPA the prices for each area. We have 7 areas throughout the county. Each area coincides with a maintenance shop. Area 1, $124 an hour. Area 2, $132 an hour. 3, $137. 4, $124. 5, $137. And 6 and 7, $140 an hour. Would like to award Zimba Trucking for the rates listed in the RDA.
All right, thank you.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the last one is the 2024 Nuisance Beaver Trapper Award. Again, bids were opened on the 10th of May at 2 o'clock. Received a fair amount of interest in it this year. Area 1 came in with Jim Roggenroot being the low, actually the tie, but tie goes to the incumbent at $55 a beaver. Area 2, we have Bill Vance at $65 a beaver. Area 3, 10 miles, $95 a beaver. Area 4 and 5, again, Bill Vance at $55 a beaver. Area 6, down in Mizpah, Jim Ogeman, $100 a beaver. And Area 7 over in Silverdale, John Moma at $75 a beaver. We request authorization to approve these trappers and their bids.
Thank them for bidding as well. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's good to have this deal here and have multiple bidders. That's really nice to see. So. Right. Do we have support?
Support. I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Thank you, Commissioner Roach. Thank you, Trent, for putting all this together.
No problem.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. Thank you, Trent.
Thank you.
All right, you take care. Thanks for hanging out. It was so enjoyable to wait.
It's all good.
Appreciate that. We're digging into the lunch hour here, so it's gonna go quick now. But, and you're just looking at a resolution for this couple of watershed areas here?
Yeah,
Than
so
one
if you
watershed?
look at the state map, and if you remember back with, we're currently in the Rainy River, Rainy Lake, one watershed, one plan, the last two in our county, and there's only 3 open in the state, and we have 2 of them, and that's the Little Fork and the Big Fork. So just looking to continue the process. As you recall, the carrot to migrate from countywide boundary water planning to watershed planning is the implementation funds that follow the adoption of the plan. So we are in the middle of drafting the Rainy River, Rainy Lake, looking to bring, later this fall would be the drafts. So these 2 watersheds will follow the same sort of timeline. It's roughly a 1.5-year process, and Itasca Soil and Water is looking to submit the application for the Big Fork, and with partnership, obviously including this county, and then this Koochiching Soil and Water will take the lead on the Little Fork and follow the same process. Anything else to add, Matt?
Yeah, no, I think that the resolutions to support the one watershed, one plan planning effort, I guess they're applying for grants for the planning of these 2 watersheds, and the resolution supports that application for the grants. The grants are 100% to cover the cost of the planning effort, so there's no county dollars being spent on the planning effort. Or at time, I guess, is the only thing, and it's a good amount of time, on staff's part to go through that process, and any of the board members that'll be part of the planning effort. So, and then eventually that plan is brought to the board for consideration and hopefully approval. And once it's been approved and gone through the process through the state level, then it's a matter of implementing initiatives within the plan. And like Pam said, there would be funding allocated by the state directly to each of the plans for implementation. So whatever priorities are that come out of the plan, that's those monies will be directed towards those priorities.
From the local group and local stakeholders.
Plan, yeah.
Well,
for this portion of the watershed.
Yeah, so it's a plan with partners being the counties, the SWCDs, Bowser, and various other state stakeholders. Yep. So there'll be plenty of state involvement related to the plans, but it's the way the state is pushing towards watershed planning rather than county-based planning. They want to have cooperative areas, and they think it makes most sense when you deal with a watershed rather than just breaking it out. And I would agree with that thought process. But certainly there's additional input from other areas and other stakeholders, and I guess that's a double-edged sword. I think it's good both ways, good, and there's some things that you don't always agree with, but overall, I think everybody has the intent of keeping good quality water and keeping it a nice resource for all users.
So the Big Fork would be Itasca and Cooch, in all likelihood, counties and soil and waters, and then the Little Fork would mainly be St. Louis and Koochiching.
Yeah.
It's possible that Itasca may sign on in a limited, because their portion is, I think, under 10%. So they're not a mandated partner with under 10% ownership or jurisdiction.
And we did that like on the Red Lake watershed, and then also the Rainy Rapid, where we just were limited partnership because of the number of acres or area that was involved. we felt that they could go ahead and move forward with it. We wouldn't allocate as much time to it, and because it was a small area. But these ones are a big area of our county. The Rainy River, Rainy Lake, Little Fork is, like Pam said, is between the two counties, St. Louis and Cooch, and the SWCDs, and possibly other partners could be involved as well.
We've reached out to tribal communities
and then the Big Fork again would be Itasca County and SWCDs and Koochiching. So.
And we have Commissioner Delsitz on that, on the planning, on the Rainy Lake?
You sit on the
Rainy River, Rainy Lake. Yep.
All right. So resolution to submit for grants and applications to help fund and support moving forward with these two water plans. Is it okay in the same motion?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'll second it.
Papers.
I second it.
Any discussion? Any further discussion?
These are 100% match?
For the
For
planning.
the planning.
For the planning?
Yeah. There's I think 10%, is that what it is? 10% match on the
When we get into the implementation.
implementation. I think it's 10% match on the implementation funding, but that's later on once the plan has been developed. And there's in-kind, the ability for in-kind matching.
So for instance, on the Rainy River, Rainy Lake, I think it's roughly $500,000 in implementation funds that will come through once that plan is adopted. When we go through the budget, we're identifying where different levels of funding will come from. Level one is what do we have existing? So the block grants, the different contracts that we have. Level two is the new money, which is the implementation dollars, and then 3 is outside sources, new partnerships that might come up. So there's a lot of collective funding that, and not everything will get, some might be bigger than the funding would allow, some of the projects that are identified, but that's all for local implementation.
The Rainy River, Rainy Lake, is this south of that, or does it include Ontario watershed part of it?
No.
It's just, we call it the butterfly, so it's the,
Just in Minnesota.
just the Minnesota side.
Yeah.
Although we do identify that we
Yeah.
want to continue to encourage our Canadian partners to engage in efforts, because when we're talking about water quality, it really does matter what both countries do if we're trying to make an impact, but we have no jurisdiction across the bridge.
Correct. All we can do is provide information, and then they have to regulate whatever they decide to regulate. So
I think they have pretty strict rules.
in some things for sure, and others, they're just different, right? But again, everybody has the shared idea of protecting, or not, of keeping the high quality waters that we currently have. I mean, the Rainy River had a huge increase in quality over the years. I mean, I think everybody can remember when they would fish in the Rainy River and have stuff on their lines, and I don't think they have that anymore. So, I mean, that's a big benefit to the water quality. And so to continue that effort to try to keep our waters in good condition is a good thing.
And Matt and I both sit on the International Rainy Lake of the Woods Watershed Board, so we do have that tie into our Canadian counterparts for that encouragement.
Yeah.
So.
Sounds good.
Better start getting rid of some water.
I've taken 6 calls this morning. I'm on it.
Yeah.
I have a water levels committee meeting at 2.
Gonna say, we're gonna get
It'll be
3 inches.
up an inch by then.
Well, they
Yeah.
increased outflows twice yesterday and twice again today, so I think it's going to be becoming incremental, but noted. Lots of notes.
One comment I'll make on the Rainy River, Rainy Lake plan that's in process. Again, it'll be brought to this board. You'll have chances to make comments before, so you'll be able to see some drafts and and be able to make comments about things that might be listed as priorities or whatever, and make suggestions for changes or whatever. So these plans are something that you'll look at beforehand and then provide input, and hopefully priorities will be in line with what you guys are thinking. I mean, that's the key here. So,
as the consultant says, it's all draft until it's not.
right. And it can be adjusted later on, but ideally we'd like to get it, the priorities listed the way that, all cooperators agree with. So,
Well, good luck with that. I know it's a big project, big task, so.
yeah.
A lot of area. So, yeah, but it's a good thing too. So I appreciate
My work
that.
is done. I will leave him to the rest of his pile.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Pam.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So consideration is,
And most of that would be within Koochiching County, the Rainy Lake, Rainy River. Hugely within Koochiching.
yeah, they're divvying it up a little bit. So we have a first and a second to adopt resolutions to support one watershed, one plan water planning, to include Big Fork and Little Fork watersheds. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. Thank you. All right, Matt, now we have some rezoning.
Yes, so this next item on the agenda is a rezoning and conditional use permit application submitted by Howard Powell for a 4-unit recreational vehicle campground. The Planning and Zoning Commission met Thursday, May 9th to hold a public hearing on the combined parcel rezoning and conditional use permit by Howard Powell in order to operate the 4-unit recreational vehicle campground on 5.3 acres, which includes an existing 2-bedroom home and it's under construction currently. The request is to change the zoning from AF1 agriculture forestry to RR1 residential recreational. This parcel is located at 11685 County Road 36 in Mizpah. Per section 4.55 of the 1975 Koochiching County zoning ordinance, RVs intended for occupancy are to be located in an approved RV campground. Per section 2.79 of the ordinance, RV campgrounds are allowed in an RR1 zoning district with approval of a conditional use permit. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard information provided by the applicant and asked for any public comment. No comment was heard or submitted, and the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously made the recommendation to approve the rezoning and conditional use permit application as submitted. So I'm looking for your consideration on the Powell rezoning and conditional use permit.
You need a motion, or you just says consider?
Oh, no, it would be, I need a motion, yep. Yeah, you have to take action.
I would make that motion, considering there was no input from the public, and from what I've seen or gathered of it, I mean, it shouldn't interfere with anybody.
Yep. As far as away from all of his neighbors, looking at all the maps and stuff that you had sent us.
Yep.
Did anybody come to the thing when you were out there?
Yeah, so when we had a site visit with the Planning Commission, some of the members were able to attend. We met with Howard on site. There also was one resident in the area that came to that site visit, and we specifically asked if they were interested in just what was happening and had some questions just to understand it. And we asked if they had any opposition, and they said no issues. So one person showed up for the site visit. As far as the meeting, we did not have any comments at the meeting for or against. So the Planning Commission considered the application and thought it met all the requirements for a recommendation for approval.
Yeah.
You made the motion?
I made the motion, yeah.
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Yeah, it's a nice site out there. I wasn't able to go during the day with them, but I went over that afternoon. And yeah, I drove through the property and perfect spot for this. I talked to the neighbor. He was outside, so I talked to him for a little bit. I said, "Do you have any cause for concern?" He goes, "What concern?" And at least when I talked to him, he had zero concern of anything happening. So they all get along great. So everything looks good to go there. So that's, yeah, great spot for it.
How close to the pond is that? Pretty close. The pond that he's got.
The RV site?
Yeah.
It's more on the south side of the site, but yeah, it's probably a few hundred feet away from the pond. I'm guessing 300 feet, somewhere in there.
Yeah, there's like two halves of the property, and one's kind of on the back half. He wants to put them more on the front half.
Yeah. So the parcel itself, it's one parcel. It's the 5.3 acres is on the front end, and the remainder is on the north end. The rezoning is just for the 5.3 acres. Howard plans to have a transfer of that 5.3 acres into a separate name, so that it's a separate parcel, but right now it's combined with the piece to the north. So the request is only to rezone that 5.3 acres and keep AF1 on the north end, and that pond that you're referring to, the 5.3 acres that's being proposed for the site cuts just the very south end of that pond, and most of the pond falls on that north parcel. So.
Gotcha.
He also has, I mean, in his house that he's working on, it's a one-story house with an attached garage, but he also has a bathroom that is available to the 4-unit campground, which is required as part of the requirements in our, as part of the requirements. And so that bathroom is also got an exterior entrance that the campers could use if they needed it. He's proposing only self-contained RVs at the site. He has an approved designed sewer system that he's planning on building that will accommodate for both the house and the RV site, so it's designed for that purpose. And so the Planning Commission didn't see any issues with it, and that's why they recommended it. So.
Great. So we have a first and a second to consider parcel rezoning REZ 2401 and conditional use permit CUP 22401. We got a first from Commissioner Erickson and a second from Commissioner Hill. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you. And we had quite a few, we've had a lot of planning and zoning items coming up here as we've been going through things. So the next three rezonings are related. We identified these locations as items that we probably should clean up for zoning. We identified them as we were going through the short-term rental ordinance process, and we've been talking about these areas for a long time, but I'll start with the first one. So it's the request for board action is approve parcel rezoning 2402 of lots 9 through 19, Block 1, Castoretto Plat, and all of condominium number 2, Comrade Village condominium, from C1 to R2 residential district, C1 commercial district to R2 residential, as recommended unanimously by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Again, we had the public hearing on May 9th with the Planning Commission on the application that was submitted by us on those locations there. And the parcels are located approximately 12 miles east of International Falls along the shore of Rainy Lake and include residential dwellings as well as common interest areas within the planned unit development. The lots were previously zoned commercial according to the former City of Island View zoning map. Comron Village condominium developed development was established in 1994, and the residential use was accepted by the City of Island View, although no record of rezoning to residential was found. In 1999, after the Island View dissolved, Koochiching County elected to zone all previously commercial properties in the City of Island View, which included this, to County C1. Since the use and administration of these parcels has been residential in nature, the Planning and Zoning Commission directed us to change the zoning to R2. During the public hearing, they asked for any public comment, and no opposition to the rezoning was heard or submitted. The Planning and Zoning Commission again recommended to approve the rezoning of the subject parcels to R2 as submitted. And we did receive a few inquiries from some of the landowners. They had asked some questions just to understand if there was anything that they felt would impact them, and after we explained it to them, that basically it's going to be rezoned to residential, which is their current use. There was no opposition. So.
And that's just basically a cleanup item because of some of the kind of tag along with the vacation home rentals, and at the same time before we redesignate a whole area as because they were part of these areas were included in that area, correct? So.
Yeah. So we have, we're dealing with 3 right here, but there's various locations in the county that have some discrepancies between the current use and versus what the zoning is. And the zoning was established many years ago on some of these parcels. Maybe they had plans that there would be conversion and development when they identified areas where they would place commercial zoning on properties, but sometimes it's problematic. You can't have a residence in a commercial property, in a commercial zone district. Now, anything that was zoned that had a residence years ago, it would be an allowed, it's a non-conforming use, but it's allowed because it was there prior to zoning. But if we can clean up a few areas, I'd like to do that. So, and the Planning and Zoning Commission agreed with these. So,
absolutely. So, up for consideration is parcel rezoning RAZ, consider parcel rezoning RAZ 2402.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Thank you, Commissioner Wolf. Any discussion? Anything else on that one, Matt?
Nope.
Hearing no other discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries.
Thank you. The next one is the board action requested is approved parcel rezoning 2403 of lots 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, plat of Red Crest Island, from 01 open space to R2 residential district, as recommended unanimously by the Planning and Zoning Commission. So again, they met on May 9th for the public hearing, to hold the public hearing on the rezoning application, requesting those lots on the plat of Red Crest Island. It's basically on the west end of Red Crest Island, to rezone those lots from 01 open space to R2. The parcels are located again on Red Crest Island on Rainy Lake. Most of the lots within the plat of Red Crest Island are zoned R2 already, and as a result of being within the former City of Island View. In 1999, after Island View dissolved, Koochiching County Board elected to zone all previously residential properties in the former City of Island View to Koochiching County R2. So that was basically the east part of the island that was a part of the city. The west portion of Red Crest was not included in the rezoning, therefore the county is requesting a change of zoning to R2 to be consistent with how the parcels have been historically used and administered. During the public hearing, they asked for public comment. No opposition to the rezoning was heard or submitted. And again, the planning and zoning unanimously recommended to approve the rezoning of the subject parcels to R2 as submitted.
We didn't hear anything from the public. We just had the normal questions, I think, for clarification.
Again, we did receive a few phone calls administratively within the office. And again, when we explained to them what we were doing, they were just more curious, was it going to impact their use? And we said they've been administered as residential in the past. You've been using it that way. The setbacks have been administered the same as the east side of the island, and to rectify the issue of the 01 officially being on there and we having no record of a residential district on that area, we wanted to clean it up and make sure it matched the way it's being administered and used. So.
Yeah, didn't have any public comment other than just questions at the meeting. And, a few people were here, but not in opposition of anything. They just had more questions than anything. So, and they got answered, I think.
Yeah.
They didn't have anything to say after they got answered. So.
We'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach. Any discussion? Being none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries.
Okay, the next rezoning was on Susan's Island. So again, the motion is to approve parcel rezoning 2404 on Government Lot 2 in Section 23, Township 71 North, Range 23 West, from 01 open space to R2, again as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. So again, we had met on May 9th, same meeting, to hold the public hearing on the rezoning application. To rezone it from 01 to R2. The parcels are located on Susan's Island on Rainy Lake, approximately 8 miles east of International Falls. As per the official county zoning map created in 1975, these lots are located in an 01 open space zoning district. Koochiching County has been administering Susan's Island as R2, which allows for year-round residences and 10-foot side yard setbacks. The Planning and Zoning Commission directed us to make the change to clarify consistencies with the zoning map and to be consistent with how the parcels have been historically used and administered. There was somebody at the Planning and Zoning public hearing asking questions, but no opposition to the rezoning was heard from them, or we didn't receive any submitted comments as well. So the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended to approve the rezoning of the subject parcels to R2 as submitted. So just looking for the board to take action.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Thank you, Commissioner Roach. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries.
Thank you.
And you have a contract. I think I lost it now. But
Yeah, so I provided you with the bid results from the Little Fort Canister site. We advertised for bids and we're accepting bids through last Friday, May 17th. And we received one bid from Philip Bundy for $1,500 a month. Our last contract was $440 a month for the same contract. Our historical costs for that canister site have ranged, our low was the 440, or I'm sorry, 425 was our low in 2014, but in 2010 we were at 650, but this is a substantial increase for operating the canister site, and we'll increase our budget by about just under $13,000 on that site. But we advertised for bids. We didn't receive anything but this one bid. We need to have an operator for the canister site to provide service to that area. So I guess it's up to the board to decide if they want to accept the bid. I suppose you have a few different options. I did provide information on the other canister sites as well attached, just to show you some of the cost associated with those.
There's another one that's up there at that 14.
Yeah, there's one other out there that Big Falls was at that.
Couple at 800.
Yeah, 1466 was Big Falls per month, but they also have a demo site at that location, so it's a little different.
What did you say the yearly increase would be?
About just under 13,000.
Times how many other canister sites when they see that?
7 canister sites. Yeah.
If I were in Lowman or Birchdale, I'd look at that and say,
Yeah.
Wouldn't I?
It would certainly, or you might, we only received one bid. If you can reject the bid, and we could go out for bids again. I mean, certainly you could do that. We could accept the bid and then rebid with the rest of them at the time that they expire, which is the end of 2026, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Two-year contracts?
Yeah, this one's from May 22nd, 24 up through November 30th, 26. So, we would go out for bids again, before the expiration in November of 26.
So that'd be an extra 30,000 from now until then.
I'm sorry, say that again.
That would be an extra 30,000 from right now, when because it's 2 year, the whole contract would be 30,000 more than the way
Yeah,
it is right now.
right. Yeah, we kind of analyze it based on the yearly cost. That's the way we budget. But yes, it's an increase. I think we've had a very, the person that was operating, Tom Gropper, was the waste canister site attendant for many years. Due to health reasons, he had given us his notice that he would no longer be able to service the canister site. I think he's provided a great service to the county at a very reasonable price. So I appreciate that for sure with him. But again, if we reject the bid and go out for bids again, there's no guarantee that we might go up. And I don't know if there will be additional interest, or we don't know. That's an unknown.
When we went out for bid in 24, do we have history of how many bids came in 23 for this?
Yeah. So I think we received 2 bids on this site, but one dropped out. So then we only had one bid, which was Tom at the time.
Just awarded in May. They just started this spring, right? The bid awards were just...
Yeah, we just recently went through that. It was last fall that we went through that process, I think.
Was the 13,000 yearly or 2 years?
No, that was per year, roughly. Yeah.
26,000 over.
Plus a little. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus the extra few months, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
that's where.
Yeah. But so if you reject, then we got to service those. We have a choice. Do we close the Little Fork canister site and make those people go to a different canister site temporarily until we get a contractor in place? Do we service that with existing staff? You know, so.
I don't know, there's a lot of people go out there and see Little Fork uses it all the time. The one in Little Fork?
Yeah, it gets used.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't think it'd be a good thing to close it. I mean, that temporarily even. I mean, that's, and you know, our existing staff is stretched. We certainly would be not doing something else if we were having someone sit there and manage the canister site for those times that it's open. So.
Is there training that they have to go through?
We provide them information, but no, I mean, just internal training, just internal information.
What are the duties?
Duties are to make sure that waste is disposed of properly in the proper waste streams. They need to maintain the site, pick up garbage, mow the lawn, clean off the so plow, whether it's contracted or the county highway department, I think makes us a loop in that canister site, but they'd have to shovel the areas that people access to dispose of their waste. So they're making sure that the waste goes where it's supposed to go, and if there's hazardous waste or those types of things, they would make sure they don't put it, you know, place it at our site and make sure things are, you know, if that's coming into the site, then that's got to be dealt with in a different way. So they have some responsibilities of just maintaining the site, and
But Big Falls got a whole lot more responsibilities than Little Fork. If you take a look at what Big Falls does for 1466, he does a whole bunch more compared to what Little Fork is, and Little Fork's higher than Big Falls.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't want to lose them on the Little Forks.
No, I know that.
At 16, you know,
His bid is his bid.
yeah, and if we don't, if we go for bids and he's the only one, maybe 2,000 now.
I agree, I'm glad we got a bidder, so, and it is the cost, but I think we should prep, because I think you have a point, Commissioner
I think
Erickson.
that's my concern. I mean, is
Yeah.
just that we're gonna.
Well, we have to budget for that and plan for that.
Set precedents.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's setting precedent. It's a bid. I mean, people can bid whatever they want to bid.
Right, the
And,
bids are open.
yeah, I mean,
They were working for $4 and $5 and $6 an hour,
Yeah.
so I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
They may get more
now
bids.
it's 16.
They may get
well,
more
and this
bids.
particular bid, I think it came out to like $23 an hour. You know,
Would we be better off just to set a price and then ask for applicants?
well, they're not county employees; they're contractors. You know, right? So.
We don't have any right of assignment either, I don't suppose.
We could set max bids and not get any.
Well, yeah, I mean, it'd be just like rejecting it. I mean, you could say that the you could have a maximum amount.
What I was thinking is.
Yeah. In the overall cost, I mean, our canister sites for the amount of volume that we receive, they're very expensive. You know, right? I mean, because we don't receive a lot of volume, and compared to all the other waste that we receive at the transfer station, our cost per customer is much higher at all of the canister sites. But those are services we have to provide to the rural county, the rural part of the county, and I think it's important to kind of look at the whole solid waste program as a global process. And if we don't provide that service out in those rural locations, where does the waste go, right? The waste, you know where the waste is going to go. That's right. We clean up a lot of sites, and having less services would not necessarily be a good thing. You know, so there's going to be a cost associated with this. And I expect that costs will go up. I mean, costs are going up on everything. And I've got another RBA that's coming up that's discussing, you know, hauling of our waste and the costs associated with that. So, I mean, everything is going up. Their costs to live out there are going up, right? And so it's, you know, a reflection of all of our inflationary issues that we have.
Well, I think we just have to accept his bid because he was the only bidder and just continue on.
Yeah, I'll make the motion. Accept his bid.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre. Is that a motion? You want a separate motion for the resignation, or can it be together?
It could be together, yeah. Yeah, it can be together.
Okay. So, considering a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner McIntyre, of the cancer site resignation and to approve new attended contract to Philip Bundy for the amount of $1,500 per month. And that is a contract that goes through the end of 2025?
End of 26.
Excuse me, end of 2026.
Well, November 30th, 26, sorry.
November 30th of 2026.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries.
Yeah. Thank you. Lori from Manco Trucking had said that she was going to try to get here, but apparently something created some conflict here, so.
Yeah, next up is consider approval of MSW hauling contract requested revision.
Right.
So there's been a few revisions that Matt's been working out on the request of the contractor within the contract itself, and so Matt's been kind of vetting those out, and kind of bouncing things back and forth with the operator and with the attorney, with Adam, and with the management committee. So just let Matt explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so the county entered into this existing MSW hauling contract with Manco Trucking, Inc. on January 1st, 21, and we modified it in January of 2022 due to increased costs. Manco has requested an additional modification due to increased costs and has agreed to extend the contract to the end of December 31st, 2025, which corresponds with the Marquette landfill solid waste disposal agreement. If fuel prices remain at their current levels, this contract modification would increase our annual hauling expense by approximately $20,000 to $30,000. Our 2023 waste transportation cost was $325,912. The revised contract language was reviewed by the county attorney and the management committee, as Jason had mentioned. And although the county attorney did not recommend revising the language in the current contract, the management committee considered the attorney's comments as well as the concerns raised by the contractor and recommends moving forward with the revised contract. One item I want to share with you, the management committee had asked about section 12.2, which is the contractor termination clause of the contract. It currently is written in there from, it was 30 days written notice, and Manco has agreed to increase that to 60 days to give us a little more time if there was ever a termination. I mean, they don't anticipate there would ever be, but, you know, if they had a fire at their shop and destroyed everything, I mean, how are they going to service the contract? So that was an example they used as maybe a situation where they would have to terminate the contract because they couldn't service it. But in any case, they agreed to increase it to 60 days. You know, while I don't like to see increases in expenses, you know, inflation's out of our control, and you know, I think Manco's request is reasonable. So I'd support approval of the modified agreement.
And this is for June 1st of this year to December 31st of 2025, looks like here.
Yes, so it's yes, at the end of 2025 is when this would
normally it would be up at the end of this year, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So extending it is really valuable to us because it corresponds with
closing or going back to market.
That's correct. Our market contract is the end of 2025, and so will either be, doing a new contract with Marquette or finding another solution for disposing of our waste at some location. So, and I'm working on various options, and I know I've brought to you landfill letters of support for applications to MPCA to either convert or expand existing landfills in St. Louis County and Itasca. Those are all options, and the way I look at it is the more options we have, the better. It's expensive to get rid of waste in our county, so I'm looking at a lot of different options for that right now, and I'll, in the future, bring those options to you.
I also mentioned too at the management committee, some of the other things within the contract will give us a little more liability on our equipment, which meaning our MSW trailer. And it's sorted out and varied out within the contract, within this proposed contract. It defines that responsibility fairly well. Obviously, when it goes, if something does happen, it gets redefined 9 times out of 10 anyway. But that will give peace of mind to the contractor that they're not potentially responsible for some of the things that could potentially happen within the trailer to damage a trailer or some of their vehicles. So some of those responsibilities are outlined within the contract pretty well, and they've been vetted and looked at. And like I say, there's a little extra liability there. However, they do provide a good service for us. They've been a great contractor. They do all of our maintenance on it, and really do take the bull by the horn and get it done. And they don't fiddle around with, bickering around about getting it done. They just do it. So they've been really good for us, and I do appreciate them too. So I understand their situation, and I think we've had lots of discussion over the last little while and stuff, and there's lots of stuff going on too. So I think it's timely that it's getting done too now, and the extension. I appreciate their extending it too for that year. That's a benefit for us and for Matt to give a little time to breathe. Well, maybe take a breath. Not breathe, maybe. Just take another breath.
It allows us a little more time. We would have a contract either way for hauling the waste, but it's nice to be able to extend it and to make those two contracts kind of match is beneficial to us. And like I said, we're going to be looking at options for disposal here, and it'll be a part of that process. Once we identify the location that we think is best for the county for disposal of waste, then we can go out for contract, out for proposals for hauling that waste to that location. So
I would make the motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. Thank you, Commissioner Roach. Anything further on that, Matt?
No.
I think the incident with the trailer catching on fire probably caused a lot more scrutiny of contracts and whatnot. So, right? And the definition of waste has changed over the years too. Basically, what goes into that waste stream is a lot different now than it used to be.
Yeah, I'll just make comment on that. So the production of things, waste items that are a result of the things we buy today are definitely different. What is allowed in the waste has probably gotten more restrictive over the years. But, I'm sure the fire that was caused in the waste in that trailer related to this claim that occurred here some months ago was probably caused by a battery or something that was disposed of that shouldn't have been disposed of in the waste. And so those are items that are not supposed to be in the waste, but and so we encourage people, hey, if you've got lithium batteries or any of those kinds of things, don't throw them away. We need to dispose of those properly because they can cause a lot of damage and are a threat to people and property. So.
Yeah, that's a good point, that the education out there for those types of things, and I know there's lots of good education out there, and there's lists of do's and don'ts that I see even, which is, that people, so folks get the idea, and I think over time, that stuff isn't good for the environment, but
right.
It should be disposed of properly as well,
right.
And the damage part of it is a side effect of handling it properly too.
Right.
So it's come to unfortunate in fruition in one situation for whatever caused it, but still it caused lots of problems for everybody. So
Yeah, and Manco's done a great job. So we have, we've been pleased with the services they've been providing over the years, and it's nice to have a contractor that just takes care of things, and so we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just a question for Matt. Is this gonna be part of your evaluation process for disposal of waste at the transfer station then to offset this cost moving forward?
Is certainly our, added costs, our total costs for waste disposal, our consideration for analyzing all of our processes and how can we recoup costs, for sure. So when we talk about fee increases or adjustments or a new scale, an outside scale where we start to charge based on weight rather than volume, all of those things are part of an analysis. And if we, again, I'm bringing like an outside scale to the solid waste committee. We've already met once. We need to meet again, but I expect in the near future that there might be a recommendation to have the county consider putting an outside scale and charge by weight, at least on the commercial side of things. But we'll see where that ends up. I mean, we're talking about an investment of probably $250,000, but I think the payback will be a short payback after you make that investment. So,
Yep. More to come on that.
yeah.
So great.
But the short answer, yes.
Great. We have a first and a second. Anything else? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Good day. Well, you trudged through lots of stuff the last couple of weeks. Holy moly.
More to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.
At this time, we're for public comment. Is there anybody for public comment? Hearing no public comment, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Support.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach. Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Any other business?
Not for the regular meeting.
Not for the regular meeting. All right. Hearing nothing else, I'll call the question for adjournment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And we are adjourned.